This dispatch episode of Watch Out for Fireballs, the last dispatch episode of Watch Out for Fireballs of 2019, is brought to you by our patrons. What a surprise! Last minute twist. If you are hearing this on early release, please tune in to Duckstream this weekend. Go to Duckfeed.tv/Duckstream to find information. And if you are a patron, thank you very much. If you're not, please consider. Go to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. Thank you.
My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Cole Ross.
And you're listening to Watch Out for Fireballs Dispatch, our dispatch episode for December.
Yeah.
Where we answer your questions and your prompts and read your responses.
Yeah. Throw a little topic discussion in between. Things get a little bit loose, a little bit loosey, a little bit goosey.
I gotta tell you, we don't always agree on everything.
When you have movies like Tom Cruise in them.
Yeah,
man.
It's so great that they're even making movies like this anymore.
Yeah, that's it's real hard not to let that stuff filter in. That has been one of my biggest. The On Cinemaverse has been one of my biggest like personal media acquisitions. The media Pokemon that I caught this year that I'm most glad that I did. So yay.
That's always a thing on the AV Club. They always have like, what old media did you get turned on to this year?
Yeah.
So it's a good feeling.
Yeah.
Come into the On Cinemaverse. Really excited to go to the mandatory attendance tour in a couple months. You love Tutti Frutti. We love Tutti Frutti. It's the music you grew up with. So very excited for little Richie.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So why don't we get started? We're gonna do the questions and prompts first here.
Yeah. As per always.
Mm-hmm.
Here. Go ahead and get us started here, Cole. I usually start.
Yeah.
Let's go first.
Let's see here. Let's go with Tamika, who asks or says, I really enjoyed the discussion of game economies in the Jade Empire episode, and think a greater discussion of how game economies can creep into other aspects of the game make for a good topic, and games that handle that burden particularly well or poorly.
Yeah. So yeah, this could be a topic, but it could also be something we can get through in a reasonable time.
Yeah.
This is like, I think that like for me, the origins of this idea started during the Bloodborne season. So in a weird way, like Chalice Dungeons are the way that this game design truth came to me.
Yeah.
Was realizing how unfun it was to, go into a corner of the world, explore like a cool secret and just find a scratch off that wins another scratch off.
Yeah.
As Riff puts it for Chalice Dungeons, and then just feeling bad, and just thinking like, oh, the fact that this game does not have as much equipment, like there's, very few armor sets. There's only a limited number of weapons.
Yeah.
It is not as item based. It doesn't have that RPG sense to it that the previous games had, have actually impacted the level design and the feeling of exploration.
Yeah.
And that kind of set off that whole idea of like, oh, these things actually impact more than it initially seems.
And I think that like analysis of economies in games is hurt by two things. Number one, whenever people talk about economies in games, they are often talking about multiplayer games, specifically MMOs and things like that. Additionally, economy is one of those things that you only really notice when it's bad. Yeah,
there's plenty of just straight put fine economies.
Yeah,
in games. And they're just fine.
Yeah.
Like it's hard to think of ones that are really good. Like there are a couple of things, like games that do interesting things with it. Like Shadow Tower. There's an interesting thing with it, with the weird health, weapon degradation, like triangle.
Yeah.
That game has. That's interesting.
Something that is interesting is Metro. Metro does amazing things with their economy, where your currency is literally bullets. Like the good bullets are your money.
Yeah, that is interesting. Like I think that Fallout 1 Like when I first played that, that's a really interesting, the idea that everyone is there are merchants in a town, but everyone is a barterer. So if somebody has something that's interesting to you, you can trade, like everyone is a shop.
Yeah.
That was really pretty fascinating to me at the time. That's interesting and cool and plays into the world flavor.
Yeah.
Really well.
But like other times, the economy gets so well integrated with everything else that it becomes like just another reason that the game is perfect. See RE4, where there is an economy to that game, right? But you ride it so smoothly that you're pretty much always like getting just enough money for this briefcase upgrade right when you reach there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're choosing between that briefcase upgrade and something else that is also useful.
Yes.
There's no slam dunk choices. I think slam dunk choices are a problem in an economy.
Yeah.
And then, in terms of games that have fucked it up, I think that there's a real comorbidity with crafting systems and fucking this up. Just because then there is just a preponderance of items that are not good on their own in the world, which fuck up the exploration aspect of it. Like if I'm not going to craft this specific sword, beating this boss or going into this corner to get a part of this sword when I'm spec'd for axes feels bad.
Yeah.
That's a shitty feeling. It feels worse than just getting an axe or a sword I'm not going to use. Yeah. Like getting a part of a sword. Like that's, like for as much as like I think that it's a masterpiece game, I think Witcher 3 has a pretty annoying economy. Yeah. I think it's probably one of the weaker parts of that game. Or I think about Fallout 76's economy is horrible. It's so disempowering. Like they have such a tight throttle on your power. Like again, just in the way that the tendrils reach into things, because economy also plays into your power arc in a game. Yeah. And how much control. Like we talk about games that are slopes versus games that are stairs, and how stairs are really satisfying because you can kind of jump the curve temporarily and it feels really good. Yeah. Like, oh man, I did the work to get the Drake sword, and now, inarguably, I am unbalanced and kind of overpowered for a couple levels. Yeah.
I can sprint until I run into the wall. Yeah.
Yeah, and it feels good. Like, it has a really nice sense of pace to it. Games that, so Fallout 76, because it is a multiplayer game, and because it's not, like, particularly well made, like, it has such a tight control on the economy where you go in and you trade 70 sets of just junk and you get 3 caps, which then you can spend 6 caps to get a +1 armor upgrade. Like it's very, very slow and kind of pathetic feeling. There's no empowerment in it. So it almost feels like to do like a whole, it's almost like it needs a diagram. Like it's like I want a game maker's toolkit video about this because it really does impact a lot of things. It's very important. Yeah.
Because it lines up with incentives, and like managing incentives is like one of the major things that a game designer does.
Yep. That computer noise, which I'm not going to bother to edit out, is Pocket has learned how to turn on my printer. Ooh. And he's also learned how to unplug it. So now when he turns on, it doesn't just turn on. It says it's not recognized because he like unplugged it and replugged it on. Plugged it on. And then he will press print and it makes, there's no paper in it. It makes a loud printing noise. And he gets poof-tailed as hell. He just like is kind of like scaring himself with this printer. Yeah. It's really weird. He does it because he's bored.
Yeah, of course. It's a new toy. Yeah. I mean, like it's like all the other toys. He does something with it and it makes noise.
He's playing Myst. Like he's trying to figure out how this device works just by like sniffing it and like drawing the buttons. Yeah. He can't read.
Yeah. I'm happy that Greta doesn't have very much motivation because my new acquisition that is like caused her to go poof tail is for my birthday. My brother got me a flip clock. It's like a real ornate thing where it updates the time by like having just like one that just like flip down, like you would recognize it if you saw it, and it makes a noise.
And I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but it makes an especially loud noise on the hour when both of the digits change at once. So on the minute, Greta doesn't notice it. On the hour, it causes her to do 180s to face it. It's very good. If she was motivated, she would take it down, but she has no motivation. So.
Yeah. It's Greta is a hero, but Pocket is a complex villain. Like he's a Luca Blight. Like he's not a Kafka. No. So he's got complicated motivations, motivated by neither food nor fear. So the Toke asks, the story in Tyranny ends early but leaves you hungry for more. Can you think of other examples of games that do the same? Do you think other games could learn from this? So basically, games that end, but leave you wanting more as opposed to being unsatisfied or satisfied.
Mm-hmm.
No,
this is
satisfied
tough.
but not over.
Right.
Kind of.
Yeah.
It's very rare that I am not ready for a game to be over when it's over now.
Same.
Like in general, like it's never, it's I know this is a personal bugbear and not everybody dislikes it, but it's one of the things that turns me off against the visual novel, like beat this game 6 times to have the real experience.
Right.
Or near thing is that like seeing those credits is a really powerful, like, all right, I did a thing. Let's move on. It's very rare that I'm like, yeah, like I just want to play that again and see what else happened. Like, no, I want to do something different. It's a very intense feeling.
Yeah.
That I have. So this is really hard for me to think of other games that do this. And I think that's part of why I was so happy about, Tyranny doing it and so, heap so much praise on it is because I think it's a very rare thing.
Yeah. Games that have done this well until I play the bad one, are the Arkham games. Like I've ended those being like, okay, yeah, what else? What else you got for me? Because they almost always end with like a little hint as opposed to a cliffhanger, right? I think when people complain about Tyranny's ending, like it doesn't matter like when this doesn't matter the quality of the thing. When this happens, people tend to kind of grouse because an incomplete ending or an early ending feels like a bad one.
Yeah. It reminds me, it's much easier to find examples in TV.
Yeah.
For this than games for me. Like I know that was a big thing. And all of those endings are things I came to peace with as setting up a new status quo. So like the original ending of Deadwood before they added the movie doesn't resolve all of its plots. Yeah. But I came to really love that ending as just kind of a new status quo. And then Carnival is a similar thing. Like Carnival ends kind of a season. It's 2 seasons, but it ends kind of like an arc, but sets up a new status quo that's like cool and scary. And it took me a while to like just be like, yeah, that's kind of just exist out in the world. Yeah, it's okay that I don't get to experience it. It'd be cool if I did, but it's also just like really compelling and full of rich ideas on its own. So hard for me to think of other examples in games though. I tend to be done with games when they're done.
Yeah, they're so long.
Yeah, it's the longest form of media I regularly consume. Even books take less time. Even if I'm reading a book. So like, that's the thing with games, and part of the reason why I think that like the moment to moment matters to me so much in games is just volume. We talked about that a lot and stuff, but it's like, if you're thinking back on a classic JRPG and you're like, oh, I just remember the highlights and it doesn't matter to me that most of the time is spent in random battles. It's like, well, but most of the time in that, in final playthrough of Final Fantasy VII, you might spend 25 hours. Just in random battles. Yeah. That's a unruly amount of time. It is the longest media. Yeah. Like, so.
And precisely, yeah. Let's see here. Doug writes, you mentioned in a recent episode that the trend toward more cinematic music in games has been generally a net negative, as opposed to, say, the short but catchy loops of the 8 and 16-bit eras. Are there more modern cinematic game scores that you do like? This is going to be an unsatisfying answer, but all of them are indies. Like, yeah,
I don't. There hasn't been like a AAA like score I've been super into,
right,
for quite a while actually.
Yeah. So it gets rough because like modern cinematic game scores makes me think of like Assassin's Creed or something like that.
Yeah, like put a gun to my head and have me listen to Assassin's Creed.
Yeah,
like I don't,
force me to hum one of those. Maybe no, I couldn't. Sorry.
I don't know how those go.
I play them like those games. So
so I think of something like, even though it's not like cinematic, it's not like a retro score of something like Hollow Knight. Yeah, like that has. It's not ambient.
It's texture,
but it's somewhere between. Yeah, it's texture. It is textural without being ambient. I think it's a really like wonderful soundtrack. But in general, it is pretty hard for me to think of these. I remember thinking that when on the rare chance I didn't have the radio on in Fallout 4, like it would just play the kind of orchestral music, and I remember thinking it was pretty good. Yeah, but I don't remember anything other than that, like a very gentle and kind of half-hearted sense of goodwill. I don't remember anything really about it.
Yeah.
So which
Like,
is the problem
yeah.
for me.
On the other side of this, like scores that I would consider to be extremely cinematic and dramatic even would be the music for The Last Door, and consequently like Blasphemous. But
yeah.
that's
Oh man, Blasphemous' music is very good though.
yeah.
Sorry, just
no,
like
but I'm calling it good, right? Like I would call it cinematic. Yeah.
It just rushed to my head.
Yeah.
Like the cameras did a zoom in on my pupil, which just expanded like in,
like in Requiem for a Dream.
Requiem for a Dream. Yeah. I just had a real like, oh yeah, like we get to talk about that soundtrack pretty soon.
I know, right?
That soundtrack is incredible.
Yeah. That composer, like the Last Door has amazing music. Both of those do. Yeah, but like that's indie, and also it uses some more digital sound palettes like that. That isn't a Philharmonic orchestra, flooding you with sound. So it's hard to say it qualifies.
Yeah, there's something to where the idea of music. The other thing I think about when I think about modern games that do that is I think about like MCU music.
Oh yeah,
and I see this as like as getting increasingly unfashionable to like those movies. As somebody who likes those movies, like I'm never going to go to bat for the music.
Right?
It can have like a moment of like, oh, like this inspired a feeling because I have associations.
Yeah,
but I don't think that's that impressive of a trick to me, and it just doesn't do a lot for me.
Yeah,
like just having an emotion. I was thinking about like when we did the Dark Souls 3 music episode, and you talked about the those three, just those three notes in the Soul of Cinder theme that are called Gwyn, and that being the thing everyone talks about. I was also thinking about how nobody really, even though I think it's generally not bad, talks about the music from BioShock Infinite other than the covers.
Yeah.
Like everyone's like, oh yeah, the music in that game is great, and they're just talking about the postmodern jukebox stuff. Because of course they are.
Yeah.
It just I don't know. I don't think it's that unusual to have that stuff fade into the background. I think the big thing is we're just saying it.
Yeah.
And just people,
we're both controversial and brave is the problem.
That's true, and we're getting paid.
Yes.
For those opinions. It's a combination of those traits, those virtues.
Yes.
Yeah. Jack says, with the transition from physical games to digital and now to game streaming, most gamers don't own their games in the same way that they used to, if at all. In addition, the range of things that can be done with each kind of game are different. Game sharing, mods, copies for emulation, etc. What do you guys think are the positives and negatives of these three different game delivery systems, as well as any greater impacts and implications each of them has on gaming as a whole? So those three different systems being owning a physical game like a cart or a CD,
right.
Having a digital rights to it like a Steam thing versus streaming it, having the rights to stream it.
Yes. This is a topic that I know a lot of people have very strong and very strongly expressed feelings about, modern, just like digital property rights and things like that. I don't really. So if you're looking for me to crack my knuckles and like jump into the consumer defense squad, I don't necessarily know that I'm going to do it. I don't mind owning a digital copy of a thing that enters into my library and I have access to as long as I can run it. However, the idea of paying to stream something ephemeral that could just be yanked away like a Netflix, like a Netflix movie, feels unsatisfying to me, and that's about where my feelings stop.
Yeah. I'm very similar to you. Like, this is something that feels like I should be passionate about, but I'm not. And I don't want to disappoint anybody with that. Like, I think the people, the Jim Sterlings of the world and such who are going on about this are right.
Yes.
It's just not something that has enough impact on me, at least now. And maybe I'll just be wrong. Like, Steam will go under and I won't own half my games I play.
Half, I have. Jesus.
Yeah, exactly. Like, or way more, obviously hundreds of games that I've bought, like, and that will feel bad. But I don't know what it is about me that is incapable of worrying about that. I just don't have that kind of, I think that security is largely an illusion in life on the whole. Security isn't a thing. It's an illusion, and we all pretend to have it, and we never actually have it. Like, you can always lose everything. There could just be an earthquake or a tornado or anything like that. Like, you can be insured, but then the insurance companies will fuck you. Like,
you could wake up dead tomorrow.
To all of us. You could wake up dead tomorrow. Like, I don't put a lot of stock in security as an idea. I value it, but I think it's largely fake. So that probably plays into this. And I also, I've gone through this entire dance with music I went from somebody with like a very robust CD collection that I was kind of proud of to somebody who now just has a streaming service for music as an economic reality of moving into a successive series of smaller apartments, many times per year for several years in a row. And I just kind of came to peace with the idea. Like, it sounded intolerable. It sounded like something I would hate doing. I did it. I woke up the next day and I was fine.
Yeah.
And it's like, I still get to listen to music. That wasn't taken away from me. It's just the life that I have.
Yeah.
It's not exactly the same, with this game thing, because I could still choose to always buy physical copies. But I just know that it feels like the consequences they're abstract.
Yeah.
To me.
It also, it probably helps or hurts. Consider, pick one of those. It probably helps or hurts that I spent so long working at a game store that was basically just a pawn shop, and I got to see the look in everybody's face when they realized how little residual value the physical versions of those games had. Like, none of this is an investment. No. So that pretty much severed the idea that the physical thing had any real value outside of what I chose to get in and get out of it. Right.
Yeah, whatever you chose to get from it.
Yeah.
Like if you enjoy your shelf, nothing, that's great. Like that's a good reason to have a shelf.
Yeah.
But it's not, it's not an investment.
Right.
It's a weird thing because I think that it's also, there's an element of this where looking at other forms of media and other mediums, like there is an element where this is the way the wind's blowing as well. Like raging against this feels a little bit like tilting at windmills to me. Like there's not like, yes, everybody like dunked on the Stadia and like it doesn't seem good. There's I can say this as sure as I can say anything. There's no way in which that's not the future.
Right.
At some point, like we don't just like that is the predominant way games happen is you just stream them. I guarantee that it is inevitable.
Yeah. Anytime one of those services, be it on Live, be it PlayStation Now, be it Google Stadia, fails or underwhelms, that is not the death knell of this. That just means it didn't work this time.
Yeah, the technology isn't quite there, but of course it will be because that's what technology does. And that doesn't mean like right now I can go buy vinyl and vinyl is having a resurgence. Like there will still be a way to buy these games physically. If that's very important to you, you'll still be able to do it. It just won't be the norm, I don't think.
Get with the times, old man. Vinyl's having a resurgence. Cassette tapes are having a resurgence.
Yeah. Cassette tapes are having a resurgence. Yeah. I have a tape player.
I know.
I have a cassette tape. I own a cassette tape. Guys.
Yeah.
It's dumb. Cassette tapes are expensive now. I go into a thrift store and it's like $7. I'm like, this is stupid. This isn't worth it. But it is, it's going to happen. So there's an element of just kind of like buckle up.
Yeah.
To me as well.
Yeah. Collectively as consumers, we don't actually have any real power over this. Yeah.
No. Yeah. At the end of 2019, that's the answer you're getting. Like maybe some hope will happen in the future and we'll feel like, we're not just at the whims of waking up dead tomorrow and having no power as consumers, but like,
I didn't expect
now,
nihilism to be,
and just the weather outside, man.
Oh yeah.
It's the world we're living in now.
True.
This is water. Like,
oh man. Patrick writes, at what point do you decide to walk away from a disappointing game, and what can a disappointing game do to make you see it through to the end? This is never a conscious decision. I just stop playing. I go and play something else I'd rather play.
Yeah. And then just think I'm going to go back to it and then I just don't.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's pretty rare that like, every once in a while I'll quit something and like uninstall it. I'm like, I'm definitely not going to play this.
Yeah.
Generally, though, I think that I will at some point, and it just goes in the big future bin with like all the spiderweb software games and like everything that is the, things that on most, some level of my consciousness, I know I'll never actually get to, but I like the idea of it being a future grenade.
Yeah.
For me. There's never like a marker. A lot of times it is just enough friction, like, I'm pretty bored. I'd rather be playing something else. And that comes up enough times. I'm like, well, fuck this.
Yeah.
And then if it's something that keeps me going for it is harder now. I don't do that as much. If something is disappointing and I just kind of see it through to the end, like, unless like the thing that makes me do that is work. Like we're doing it for the show. In general now though, if I'm playing something and I'm like, this is pretty bland.
Yeah.
I've lost a lot of faith in the idea that something is going to redeem itself. Like you put in 10 bad hours to get your 10 good hours.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really like that construction for media, and I'm pretty resistant to feeling it.
Yeah.
As I play a game, I never forget the first 10 hours. So it's pretty rare that I'm like, this is going to keep me going to the end with the hopes that it gets better.
It's not an investment.
It's not an investment. Yeah. I don't sunk cost fallacy games anymore, generally.
Yeah. Yep.
So.
The thing that it can do, and this is more of an outcome than a prescription, but the thing it can do is make me not want to stop playing in the first place. You know?
Yeah.
Be Spider-Man for PS4, you know? Just be smooth joy the entire way through. I don't know what makes that happen, but yeah.
Yeah, and then we try to talk about those. You know, one of the things we do in the show when we're talking about a game that's very like good is try to articulate like the dozens of little things that keep pulling you along. You know, but the answer is just it's there's not a general thing. It's lots of little things.
Yeah,
you know that kind of pull you forward, I think. So, yeah. Let us see here. This question from Lewis here. Any hopes for the announced BioShock game? I just finished Infinite and had a lot of ill will towards it by the end. The artist and environment designers deserved a much better game in writing. Seems Ken Levine won't be involved in this new one. Maybe that'll help. Or has the Infinite Universe can of worms fucked it up for good?
They can just choose not to do that.
Yeah, I have quite a bit of hope actually for this. Like I think they can getting away from as a BioShock 2 partisan. I have getting Ken Levine away from this is good. The lead designer on it is Sean Elliott, who is somebody
I did not know that. Really? Wow.
Yep. That's what he's been working on, his like secret project. After doing Infinite and then working at Arcane for a while.
Shit, man.
That's somebody who I like from podcasts, and I like how he thinks about games.
Yeah.
So I actually have a lot of hope for it.
Well, yeah, no, just in the past 30 seconds, my hope for it has gone way up. Now that you mentioned Sean Elliott. Dang.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think I would like to see, I like that franchise. Infinite is really disappointing and dumb. I think it's really, and it has the misery to be dumb in a useful way. So it's constantly used as an example. Like if you're ever going to be bad, don't be bad in a way that allows other things to use you as an example. That's the worst way you can be bad, because that means you'll be bad forever. People will forever be citing Infinite.
Yes.
As a game, even though there are other games that do that kind of thing worse, just because it's so useful. It's good shorthand. So, but yeah, I'm excited. As much as I get excited about anything, which is not that much. I don't get too much game boner. So, which is a term I stole from Sean Elliott.
Damn.
Like stoking your game boner is from GFW Radio.
Foundational. A foundational craftsman.
For full circle.
No. Yeah. How do you feel about jumping to media questions?
Let's do.
Okay. Let's see here. Mark writes, do either of you have want to love series or franchises that had great early entries and now just keep churning out disappointing sequels? For me, it's Aliens, Terminator, likely the new Star Wars films, etc. And have you seen any of these rebound back into your good graces? I've heard some good buzz about the new Star Wars game, although I haven't played it yet, and there's always a chance that J.J. Abrams will stick the landing with this last one.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't, for me, my perennial example of that are the Jurassic Park movies, which I like as much as, the second and third of those I think is pretty bad. The newer ones, the first one was pretty shit, but I still enjoyed watching it. The second one I liked a lot.
Yeah.
And that's just something that like was a it wasn't even really a franchise at first, like, but it initially, turned into a franchise that was something I care about, and got sad, when they were dumb, and then kind of felt a little bit like they were back with the next one as I recalibrated my expectations.
Yeah, this happened to me a little bit with like Marvel movies, specifically on the strength or weakness of Iron Man 2. But that bounced back, And I was like, oh, like I saw Iron Man 2 and it's like, it was cool. Like those were fine, but now they're not. And I am just going to be okay with that. that did ultimately straighten out to an extent. Again, as unfashionable as it is to be into those movies.
Yeah,
I've not seen them
and
all.
Martin Scorsese's gonna come kick me in the dick.
Bring it, old man.
Yeah, old man is gonna go he's gonna put his hands on 2 bars like in a jungle gym and kick us both in the dick at the same time.
He's gonna pummel me with a medicine ball.
Yeah, he's really gonna Scorsese our balls. That's what they call that maneuver when you kick 2 guys in the dick at the same time. It's called the Scorsese.
Yeah. But as far as television and stuff goes, I'm just I'm willing to cut bait. The Simpsons was for me, but it changed and now it's not. So
yeah, that's
fine.
Yeah, cutting bait in general, I think, is a pretty good idea. No one should have given those new Star Wars movies a chance. You guys see those prequels? Y'all crazy. A band example. I was really, really excited when 2 years ago Wolf Parade put out an album that I like as much as their best album. So that was a real cool thing. They took a really long break and did some stuff that I thought was kind of middling, and then came back with something I think is really excellent. That felt real good.
Yeah.
REM did that.
Collapse Center Now. I was going to give that example. Yeah.
So there's definitely examples of things like that. Properties, I guess, in a general sense.
Yeah. Generally, I'm just kind of in a perpetual state of, ready to be pleasantly surprised, but not willing to be the first person in line, Yeah.
Oh man, Resident Evil.
Yeah.
Great example of that. We both went down with the ship with that, but it's arguable whether we should have. And the newer one, I think that even though those mid games that are good, the Revelations games are good, but with an asterisk.
Yeah.
Those are good, but they're not, oh man, this is as good as the games ever, the series has ever been. They're good with caveats.
Yeah, they are good, but I feel like I would lose credibility or stretch credulity if I tried to make too strong of a case about it.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
Yeah,
they're pretty good. It captures a little bit of what old Resident Evil feels like. But then they came back with a vengeance. So I think generally it's good to be open to those franchises doing that. But if you count on it, it's a good way to break your heart.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I have a question here from Dustin. Says there's kind of a little bit of a prologue with some kind words. Think you're welcome, Dustin. Then says we're skipping that. Then says for the question, I'll make this quick. As a person who considers himself creative, I often struggle with world building in the fictions I create. I don't have much trouble coming up with ideas. I have trouble deciding when I have too much detail. Do either of you have thoughts on when world building goes too far and the setting becomes suffocating rather than intriguing? When does it give enough information or too little? And can you guys cite any examples that come to mind in the form of media? Thank you and take care. P.S. Cole is right about Final Fantasy 12. It's so good, damn it. I know I read that as God damn it. First. It's so God damn it. It's so God damn it.
That's so God damn it.
That's so God damn it. God damn it. Did you fail your college admissions exam again? That's so God damn it. When I think so I have thoughts about this. I think that it has to do with how it's presented a lot.
Yeah.
Right? You can have so much detail if it's opt-in. And you won't, it's much less risky.
Yeah.
This is more a problem of delivery and exposition than I think it is just amount of detail.
See the Dragon Age Codex.
Totally.
Yeah.
That's a great example. And when I think about world building, my initial thought goes to the tabletop, because of who I am. And that's really tricky because you don't want to just be an exposition monster during that. That's a really tough skill. But if it's a book, and a book, that's also really tough because you're choosing everything that goes on the page, so that is, so I guess I don't have a real good answer for that. It is a fundamental part of good writing is handling exposition in a way that feels natural and compelling and does not feel suffocating. But I think of it as a presentational thing as opposed to just the amount of detail that's present in the world. So
presentation is the biggest part of it, and specifically in fiction, and Dustin writing in talking about kind of their own creative questions or problems in approaching this. I think try just ask yourself, check your gut. Am I writing a source book or am I writing a story? Right? You can write the source book, you can have your Bible, off to the side. But like doing those two different things seem like distinctly different acts, even if they are correlated, So, in movies and games and things like that, I don't know, like just to use an example that Dustin brought up, like Final Fantasy 12 versus, say, Final Fantasy 15, where one of them is a game that it just has a tremendous amount of detail that is unfolded as you go along and gives you the context when you need it, as compared to Final Fantasy 15, where it starts up by saying, hey, go watch this 2-hour movie. So you can know where this starts.
Yeah.
It just like, it seems, that is an illustrative difference, and it is about delivery, not so much about like the amount of detail that is provided. Right.
Yeah. They're both probably similarly developed worlds.
Yeah.
But it's about whether one of them kind of reveals it slowly. And that's also a thing too. This is like everything, and like, not a satisfying answer, but it's true, is that this is super subjective. So like one of my arcs on this show has been less tolerant of that in general, like of being exposited to. And that is a thing where it's going to vary per person. Like some people will just have, if there's codexes, I want to read them. It doesn't really matter like how it's presented or how much of it's presented. It's just text about the game, and I am thirsty to know as much about the game as possible. And then there's also like a lot. For me, I'm more sensitive to that, and I get more annoyed when things get in the way of the movement.
Yeah,
no. Like I have a real sense of pace that I want for things, and I can still end up liking that stuff later. Like I have a printed out bound copy of the Fallout Bible that I have like a Kinko's make to read backstory on the first 2 Fallout games, even though I'm glad that information was not in the game.
Right.
It's a separate experience. Like George R.R. Martin does that all the time. Like he puts out like these encyclopedia, like he basically puts out his Bibles.
Yeah.
You can get a published version of that, and they're just different experiences. They're both useful.
Yeah. That's partly why I cited like the difference between a source book and an actual story or a novel or whatever. Because like source books are fun to read. We have a whole show about a source book, right?
Yeah, source books are great. I love reading a source book. So yeah,
just make sure it's clearly labeled. Yeah. Let's see here. One more. I'm going to shorten this just a bit. I think generally for everybody, some of these questions are going to be shortened. Remember that brevity is generally better, but this is worth talking about in the kind of media and general online etiquette kind of portion here. So Mark writes in, starting up with some front loading, specifically about a book by a linguist named Gretchen McCulloch. The book is Because Internet, The New Rules of Language. And there's a quote here that I'm going to summarize, just basically saying that the use of irony and sarcasm, specifically in online conversations where tone is left undefined for the most part, is a bit of a trust fall exercise, a linguistic trust fall. You just kind of have to hope that people are going to hear you right and not interpret sincerely what you mean sarcastically. But then Mark goes on to ask, gaming and other internet groups definitely spawn tight-knit communities that traffic heavily in irony and sarcasm, but why do you think other tight-knit groups that form around sports, religious organizations, etc., don't speak in equally sarcastic or ironic tones? Everyone wants to feel like they belong someplace, right? So why do gaming communities seem to rely on these linguistic trust exercises more than others? And do you think this is connected to the ugly gatekeeping habits that seem to crop up around games?
Yeah, boy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. Having not read the book, I don't know that I can speak to it with full. I guess my question would be, I don't know that games have a monopoly on this.
I think we say games and other internet groups.
Maybe.
So I'm thinking of this as being online.
Oh.
Like I immediately read this as being being terminally online.
Right.
And being about that, which has a large intersection with gaming, but isn't a one-to-one Venn diagram. This is, there's elements of this in like trying to explain drill to Gen Pop.
Yeah.
Which is so on so many levels of irony and kind of double meaning that it is, becomes kind of impossible to even explain how it functions as humor. Or not impossible, but just like difficult.
Yeah. And for me, it gets complicated because like I've seen how my older relatives specifically behave online And there's definitely a certain, like, there's a good deal of like sarcasm and cynicism and, you know, for lack of a better word, like double meaning speech as opposed to double speak. That is thrown out there, that like irony is so suffused, like even just like the most like moderately online, I'm going to use the word, sorry, boomer, that like,
Okay.
I think that it's literally like, hey, this is water, you know, to bring that back. So
Here's an attempt at a stab at an explanation.
Okay.
And you can tell me what you think about this. And this is just like coming to my mind because I didn't prepare for this. Online communities, or also this happens with games specifically, because you're creating an avatar and you have a gamer tag that is kind of a thing, you know, an extension.
It's a mask. Yeah.
It's you craft a mask. So like online communication as opposed to real life communication, you are creating, there's an extra act that infuses every step of your communication. And it's that even as somebody who considered, like, I'm pretty transparent, the me that is online is pretty close to the real me. It's not a one-to-one though. There's still an act of creation. There's still me choosing to do things because there's an element of presentation to it. And I think that level of artificiality and kind of inherent falseness that comes to this might lend itself more to irony and doublespeak, because they're both kind of constructions.
Yeah.
Like adding more thought and kind of intentionality to how you make an outer self makes it easier to also say things that are not strictly true, because it's all part of a construction.
Once you take that first step to start performing, the other stuff begins to follow.
Yes. I think that is my best stab at an answer for that.
Yeah.
Because I'm not that way in real life. Like I still use irony and I still say things that are not true, but it's not, they bleed into each other. Like online kind of humor, these kind of like levels of irony and stuff have definitely bled into my real life sense of humor and everyone I know.
Yeah.
You know, in like all of my friends rather. But when I worked in an office and worked with people who I consider, you know, again, like affectionately Gen Pop, like people who are kind of normies, you know, to use an odious term, they don't do it as much.
Yeah.
Like it's not like they, you know, everything they weren't like a truth bot. It wasn't like they weren't, you know, honorable but good RPG protagonists.
Sorry, I didn't expect truth bot to come up.
Yeah, they weren't truth bot, but they were, you know, they weren't operating on the same level. Really great example of that, I've said this before, it was like, as somebody who previously thought of myself as somebody who had like a pretty good working knowledge of kind of weird sexual subcultures.
No.
You know, which I had read about online, largely like anthropologically.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm interested in this. So I'll read about it like, oh, it's fascinating. People like this.
Yeah.
When I would mention something like that, like if I was in an office and somebody would do something and I would make a joke about vor or something, they wouldn't know what it was. I would explain what it was, and their initial reaction was like, "Oh, you're into weird shit," and I had to be like, "No. Like I'm not."
Retweets are not endorsements.
Retweets are not endorsements, and I think that is a fundamental online offline difference.
Yeah.
Like I was talking about it, I know a lot about it. I must be interested in pursuing it.
Yeah.
No. You know, no, it was just kind of fascinating to me. There is that remove, you know, my constructed online environment was looking into it and Googling all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I benefited from it, but it wasn't me or something I actually wanted, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I ran into this similar thing with my job. That was, I think, maybe a little bit more online, because I worked with a lot of people who are roughly about my same age, but even they were, you know, more Gen Pop than I was, specifically because they were more involved in church and stuff like that.
Sure.
And generally, like, again, my online presentation specifically in shows was real close to how I would be in meetings and how I would be on calls and things like that. And just occasionally you get people issuing that verbal compliment, which is, oh, you're so sarcastic.
Yeah, man.
You son of a bitch, take that back. Just like that is the only word, you know, just that's about how far Gen Pop has gone up sometimes. You're so sarcastic, which is like a description of David Spade in 1997.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, I've got the t-shirt. You know, you're so sarcastic. Your shirt about turning it off and turning it on again really was a real knee slapper.
Yeah.
You know, you're so sarcastic. You want to win? Just like, yeah, that's rough stuff.
Yeah. But like, as opposed to some of the other stuff at the end of this, like why specifically do, let's say nerd or enthusiast communities, gamers, extremely online people, put this together? Like, shibboleths predate everything, even online. It's just
compared to like academia, like jargon, heavily jargon based academia, which is definitively a gatekeeping.
Yes.
Thing. It's lots of things. It's not the only thing it is. It's not the only reason. Not everyone engages in it, but part of the reason some of the people do it is because of a gatekeeping.
Yes.
That's just kind of true.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know if that is an answer. It'd be interesting to read that book. The quote that's in the question about how like it's a high risk, high reward thing to use that double speak is something I don't know if I'm totally on board with, because the reward, like, it is very fun to casually just say like drill candle tweet and have somebody understand what I mean when I see a situation. But I have definitely gotten more into erring on the side of all textual communication being more direct and less double speak.
Yeah.
Especially in anything with consequence, because the fail state, somebody just kind of being hurt, like they're not gonna be hurt by me saying drill candle tweet. But me saying something mean, mean that has like, a double meaning and stuff like that. I try to be very careful about that.
Yeah.
I'm not always successful, but I think that the risk is actually higher than the reward.
Oh, for sure. Like the risk is infinitely high, specifically with irony. See How to Radicalize a Normie, the video that Innuendo Studios put out, where irony is, effectively provides a smokescreen for genuine, regressive, bigotry, things like that. Or see what happened recently on Something Awful in FYID, where a whole bunch of casual transphobia was actually like, a smokescreen for a lot of genuine, hurtful, like motivated transphobia that was acted on. It's just the fail state is infinitely high. And the success is pretty much like, oh, you get that too. High five, bro.
Yeah, exactly. Like feeling slightly more a part of a community online is important.
Yeah.
But boy, is it possible to overstate that importance. Like, very possible to overstate that feeling.
Yeah.
So, and there are also, of course, like the general caveat with anything that, comes up about this stuff, where there are other avenues to that feeling.
Yeah.
You don't have to take the poison. It doesn't have to be transactional. You don't have to take that risk in order to get that feeling, on being understood.
Yeah.
It's not a one way way to get that.
Yeah.
Moving on to some show questions. Sam Skidmore says, loved your D&D episode. Wondered if you have thought about doing another episode about tabletop games like Magic the Gathering or Betrayal at the House on the Hill, etc. I like this idea. I would like to do more of this stuff. It's logistically harder.
Yes.
Like I would murder to do a Magic episode. I love Magic. I have so much nostalgia for it. It's such a well-designed game. It's so good. And it would be really, really great. It's just such a huge ask.
Yes. It's quite a bit, specifically because like there's really not an infrastructure for me here without like going a couple of towns over and like insinuating myself into a Magic the Gathering community for a year. I could play a digital version and internalize the rules, but that would probably wouldn't capture what people would want out of that. Probably.
Yeah. That's the other thing, is we'd run into our Team Fortress.
Yes.
Issue, which is like, we like a thing, but we talk about the thing wrong, and we didn't dedicate our lives to it, so people are angry at us, which is annoying.
Yeah.
That doesn't really hurt us that much. It's just annoying.
Yeah.
So I would love to do more of that. I would love to do, something that is always in the back pocket of me is expanding the scope of the show. Like on Twitter recently, I was like, hey, what iOS games could we do? Because we've never done one. And I think that would be cool. Yeah. And, we got tons of great suggestions. A lot of them are like, I don't know if this would support an episode. And I want to, in the gentlest way possible, to say, let us worry about what will support an episode. Because like, I bet you we can. Like, I want to change the format of the show so it is not as like, I want to fail at those things if we're going to fail at them. I want to give it a shot.
Yeah.
Maybe this would be a weird episode, but maybe that's okay. And then we just learn something, and we, the next week another episode comes along, and it's okay.
Yeah.
So things like board games, things like that, I'd really like to expand to try that kind of thing from time to time.
Yeah.
I don't want to switch this into a hybrid show, but doing a board game from time to time sounds like a fun and good idea to me.
I mean, in the past we did the narrative, like, the game books kind of thing, like that's always been a little bit under the remit of the show. And I've definitely proposed doing an episode about Spider, the Secret of Bryce Manor, in the past.
And I love that game.
Yeah.
Like I would be way into doing that game.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a bunch of stuff like that. Like I would like to kind of stretch some format.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I did for people who are on the premium feed. I did like a little solo cast about Betrayal Legacy, which is a game I hated.
No.
So I think that's a really poorly designed game.
Yeah.
While still having some joy because I was playing with fun and funny people.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's a really horrible game. Like just as a little, for this specific person, if you want to hear my thoughts about that, they are up.
Yeah.
Somewhere. And if it's something you really like, I don't mean to hurt your feelings or anything like that. I just think that's a really bad game.
Mm-hmm.
So.
More show questions here. Sam Anderson writes, I've been re-listening to early WAF and I feel like Gary has really upped his jokesmithing over the past almost decade. Gary, did you intentionally grow that, or is this just years of experience? Are there other potting skills you two intentionally worked to improve? I love this because it implies I've always been this funny. Cole, you've never been funnier. You never got funnier than episode 1.
This activated my anxiety sense when I read it. I was like immediately just like, oh.
Well, I don't understand why you're singled out on it.
I don't know. I don't know why either. There's a thing. It's a funny thing now because I think that you and I are both in the same spot where we eschew the idea of any kind of competition.
Yes.
And not least of which because it's not productive.
Right.
But also, I do in general in life, but also, in the show specifically, like I don't want us to ever to be compared.
No.
Even though I know that we're different. It always makes me feel a little bad.
Yeah.
And I don't, there was somebody wrote a mean, and I've had plenty of people who have yelled at me. Like if you look at Patreon exit surveys, there's a lot of them who are really mad at me. So It's not, by no means is this something that just happens to Cole, but there was a review on iTunes once that said something similar to that. And I remember reading it and being like, this fucking sucks.
Yeah.
And then at the bottom of the iTunes reviews, it's like, did you find this helpful? I was like, no, this is the exact opposite of helpful.
Yeah.
What are we supposed to do with this? Then I'm not calling out Sam Anderson.
No.
I just mean as a, it's such a funny thing where like, the idea of us being compared in any way just makes, again, it activates me. Like, I'm experimenting activate as a gentler word than trigger. Like it just makes me like anxious.
Yeah. Like
just, no, this isn't right.
It arouses you, but in the non-sexual way. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, both ways.
Well,
moving on to our next question. Gary's dick has gotten bigger since the beginning of the show. Why is this? Why has Cole not worked to improve the size of his dick?
I keep on pulling it.
Nothing happens. Anywho, I have not done anything intentional.
No.
It's just, and I think that in general, in terms of like podcast skills, I think that I can only speak for me. So you can different feelings about this. Initially, like I did think about that a lot. I was like, oh, I need to, strike all the weasel words from my vocabulary. I need to work on this kind of stuff. And then I tried that. I didn't like how it felt. And then decided like a lot of things in my life, I'm a really big believer in instinct and gut. And I just decided I'm going to try to do what is natural and most fun and easiest for me and feels the best and hope that works out. And that is how all of this stuff happened. Like that is how, I think that both of our like sense of humor have evolved and changed and sharpened. And I think that's how our rhythms and kind of our critical lens and stuff have improved is largely just through practice and through kind of following our instinct.
If I take this question to be addressed at both of us, I will kind of build on what Gary said. A lot of that is true for me as well. All of that is true for me as well. Instinct has served me well. But I think that a lot of these things, humor, and just general smoothness, things that could be read as like soft skills for podcasting, all of those get better or improve, or are allowed to express better if you're comfortable. And we've just gotten really comfortable with the format, with each other, with talking into microphones in our rooms alone, stuff like that. Getting comfortable has been a huge part of that.
There are a lot of ways in which we have changed the direction of the network or the shows to match what felt easiest and most sustainable and most comfortable. So there's ways in which we crafted what we were going to do based around what was comfortable, not because of laziness, but because we thought it would have this knock-on effect of creating a better result. And we were right, I think. and people who are listening to this presumably think that as well.
Generally, there's more to be.
Not everybody doesn't.
Oh, true. Yeah, it's subjective. Generally, it is better to lean into your strengths than to try very hard to shore up your weaknesses. In terms of like spending your points, if you look at this like tabletop or whatever,
Yeah.
And that's another way to put like, trusting your instinct and doing things that feel like they come naturally, etc. And there are like other things that just come from like, listening to myself when I edit, and it's like, I probably would be better served by doing a little bit more to think about where my sentences are going to end when I start them. And that's just a matter of like self-feedback more than anything that we get from outside.
And it's not always, a lot of those things are not specific to podcasting. It's just kind of changing the way that you think or the way that you speak in general.
Yeah.
We talked about earlier, like the version of me that's on podcast is very similar to the version of me that exists in real life. It's not a one-to-one, but I am not, there's not a whole lot of act to it. There's not a lot of construct to it.
Yeah.
And it's funny because that ended up becoming not only just the way that I like to purport myself, but also became a major part of my tastes.
Yep.
When I listen to podcasts or I watch YouTubers or anything like that, like the people who just feel like people are always my favorite.
Yeah.
The people who are putting on a radio show are my least favorite. I just don't think that's that interesting. And it feels worse.
Yeah.
To me, with some exceptions. Like I love Super Ego and stuff, but like it with some exceptions, but it feels worse to me when somebody clearly has crafted a podcast persona, and they're not just kind of being themselves and doing the thing that feels comfortable and natural.
Yeah. So yeah. Hopefully there was an answer in there.
Yeah. Hopefully. Yeah. I hope so as well. Rodrigo says, have you thought about doing a WoF game that you've already covered? Not like the RE2 remake, because the remake is different, but the same game. So I'm just going to kind of cut this off just because we have done that. We did a Megaman X episode. And the perpetual one for this is always Bloodlines, which we have not done, but I would love another crack at that because I think that we kind of short shrifted it.
Same.
So we have considered it. It's just there's lots of new cool stuff to do as well. So hasn't been a priority.
Yeah. And I see one more kind of low hanging fruit show question here before we go into lightning round, because we're at about an hour on here. Matt writes, for the Jade Empire episode, you chose different paths to follow, but you both did the same path in Tyranny. How do you determine whether or not to take different paths? Do you just each play your own way, and it's a happy accident that they're different? Tyranny is the exception on that.
Yes. Yeah, we typically try to do different paths or make different choices whenever we can. With Tyranny, I originally planned to play it a different way than I had the first time, but it'd been long enough since I played it that I really wanted to just kind of refresh my memory on this path that I liked.
Yeah.
And I think that game is unusually good at like kind of having, the path that we took was inherently really interesting and compelling, and pretty well developed. So it made sense to kind of cover it. There's also a sense of it not being binary, so we weren't going to get everything.
Yeah.
And that made it easier not to get, half of everything.
Yeah.
Once we kind of resigned ourselves, like, there's 4 different paths for this. They all pretty different. Like, we're not gonna be able to cover everything. Let's instead, it doesn't make sense to just cover half. Like if we cover a fourth and speak to everything else, that also works.
Yes.
Yeah.
The other time where we had pretty much 100% overlap was on The Witcher, but that was a game that we both liked so much that it just, it was like, no, you don't get to do that side quest. I get to do that side quest. Come on.
Yeah. And we just wanted to play it.
Yeah.
Like I just wanted to sit down and play that game naturally. But if you look at our episodes for other WRPGs, like we tend to split side quests, we split DLCs.
Guilds, like Morrowind
like
was
that.
a big thing. We're like, okay, you take the fighters, I take this, etc. Down the line. But even that had like some overlap. I think we both did like Thieves Guild stuff.
Yeah, because it was cool.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, like a lot of the times this question is answered by the fact that we still had to we had to play the game.
Yeah.
So we want it to be cool and fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's move on to lightning round.
Yeah.
This is me or you?
I'll take this one.
This is me. You can take it though.
Okay. Eli asks, Gary, Kole, how did you guys meet? Something Awful Forums podcast workshop thread.
More detail in previous episodes.
Yes.
Matt Bixler says, how often do you feel hyped for upcoming games? It's something that I've noticed I feel less and less, and it's hard to get a good bead on if that's just because I'm older or if there's some trend in games I'm not on board with. How much is having a game the center point of your careers feed into it, and would you even be able to tell if it did?
Probably not.
Yeah, probably not in general.
Right.
And
probably wouldn't be able to tell if I did.
Yeah. Yep. And I typically don't feel very much hype.
Right.
I don't like hype. I'm excited for Resident Evil 3. I think it looks cool.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited for Baldur's Gate 3. Yeah. There are a couple of things I'm looking forward to. Elden Ring, but it's not a palpable feeling of hype. I've left that part of my life behind. I don't know if it's age or what, but I don't take any joy from the feeling of it. It doesn't feel good.
Right. I tend to, if I note something that I think looks good, I put it on a calendar for the release date, and I check in closer when it's going to come out. I don't really follow pre-release coverage on many things, really. You know, and a lot of that just kind of comes down to realizing, like, oh, there's so little that I would even play day and date if I bought it. So, like, being hyped for it and having a sense of impatience or anticipation wouldn't really serve me. So yeah,
feels bad. Mm-hmm. Like it went from feeling good to feeling bad for me.
Yes. Let's see here. David writes, what game, unreleased or you just haven't gotten to it yet, are you most looking forward to playing in 2020? I'll answer this one right away, because I just said that we were not hyped about things and taking like RE3 and Elden Ring off the board because we already said we're going to cover these. I'm looking forward to getting around to playing Disco Elysium.
Oh, me too.
Yeah.
I would really like to play that. As far as getting around to the other one is the Divinity Tactics game that Larian's putting out.
Yeah.
Like like there's not really a developer right now I have that much confidence, like as much confidence in. Like I just know that they will. Also, you know, again, it's not fashionable, but like I'm gonna play the shit out of Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
It looks awesome.
Yep.
Agreed. Like I'm looking forward to playing that. So, you know, again, I know that's a whole ball of worms, but Holland says, you finally captured for your heinous crimes. Oh, I thought this was going to go well. You were finally captured for your heinous crimes against humanity and are deported from America. Other than Canada, because that's a cop-out answer, what country would you choose to spend the rest of your life living, working, and eventually dying in? It's a really detailed question.
Wow, starting to sweat here. What does Holland know? So the cheat answer is I've always wanted to live in Scotland. Scotland looks really cool to me. But if the idea here is to get out of my cultural comfort zone, Germany seems real cool. But
yeah, Germany seems cool.
Yeah,
to me, I was going to say somewhere in like the Netherlands.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't know exactly where, but it's hard though because I would want to consider the political climate everywhere I went, and the rising tide of global fascism is making this tricky.
Yeah,
you know, that would be the main thing I would probably look at though.
Yeah,
is like where do the values morals align most with mine?
Yeah,
you know, so maybe somewhere in the Netherlands,
possibly.
Yeah,
yeah. You thought you get one episode without talking about the rise of global fascism?
Nope.
Fascism
passed.
Let's see here. Marcus writes, just a fun one, but what objectively bad games do you still like or enjoy? From nostalgia, interesting failures, etc. I personally enjoy a few PS2 era Scooby-Doo 3D platformers because they were some of the first games that I got from my PS2 when there was a rule that I could only play E-rated games. Yeah.
Yeah. What's good? What's good and objectively bad?
This
what's
is
good
hard.
and bad.
I
don't know why this is so hard. I feel like at some point I had one in the pocket, but a lot of the things that were in the pocket, things, you know, the cultural opinion is turned around on.
Yeah.
Like it used to be a little bit more iconoclastic that I loved Pokemon Snap.
Mm-hmm.
And now like everybody loves Pokemon Snap, you know?
Yeah.
So it's not my go-to answer anymore.
Yeah. And like, I don't know, it gets a little bit hard because, you know, the jokey version of this answer is, oh, I don't like anything bad because if I like it, it's good. Right. But, like, I don't know, Gabriel Knight 2 has a lot of people who dunk on it, but that's like a good game. I'll just say Bad Mojo. I like Bad Mojo, even though that is,
Yeah.
you know, considered to be like a footnote at best, and has a lot of problems.
Yeah. I had a combo cart that had a Spider-Man and a Wolverine game for GBA, both of which I really liked.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I'll answer that just because I liked those games, but I don't know if that's if that's the answer. Genesis Spider-Man, but like a lot of these games are like 8 out of 10s.
Yeah.
Like people like them. I was like, man, I love X-Men Legends 1. I replayed that not too long ago, and I think it's really good.
Yeah.
But it's like it was when it came out, everyone's like, yeah, 8.5.
Yeah.
You know, so they're not trash.
Mm-hmm.
The Matthew Woodyard says, has there been a game where you felt or would have felt embarrassment to be seen playing it?
Oh, pick a visual novel.
Yeah, that's the only thing I'd feel embarrassed playing is like scantily clad, Pussy Prison Ass Girls 4 is the only thing that I'm gonna feel embarrassed playing, and I don't play those games.
Right.
So probably not for me. So
yeah, it'd be hard.
Just call me crazy, like underage sex. I'm just not into it. I don't, I understand I'm an outlier as far as gamers are concerned, but I just don't think it's great, to sexualize little kids. I don't know. It's just weird. Weirdo.
Yeah, I probably something like just like Danganronpa or something like that. Like I could probably defend it, but I'd rather not invite the conversation. So yeah.
There's certainly parts when I was reading Berserk on my tablet on the bus, I had somebody behind me and felt weird because of the naked little elf.
Puck.
Creature. Yeah, Puck, who is indistinguishable from a naked penisless, like 10-year-old, on the page, out of a glance. It's like, oh, that guy, the big guy in the bus is watching that, reading that naked 8-year-old manga, and I'm like, well, yes, but there's actually a rich lore, and then I just throw myself off the bus because, I'm doing the thing.
Mm-hmm.
So,
let's see here. Which one was that? I forget. I lose track.
That was Matthew. You're on Ryan.
Okay. Ryan asked 2 questions here. So Ryan says, do either of you have a dish or recipe that you keep in your back pocket for when you're hosting someone over, or even just when you want to treat yourself with some reliable home cooking?
Nothing in the back pocket.
No,
for me.
Yeah. Like I have a go-to, like if there is a potluck or an office kind of thing, like I've got a pretty good recipe for like cookie bars that I like doing. But yeah, in terms of other stuff, no, nothing in the back pocket. It's all in the rotation. Like the cookie bars are different because that's a dessert treat. It'd be psychotic if I made a whole pan of cookie bars for myself.
Yeah, it's a weird behavior. You'd find that in the fridge next to a head. Like next to a severed head is a plate of cookie bars. In the Ross case. I will, like if I go to a potluck, there's like a corn salad I will make. Sometimes I've made it at home, but like cooking for yourself or cooking alone, like the real different thing. Like I eat a lot of just like here's some vegetables, or here's some meat and some vegetables, or here's a potato and some vegetables. Like, it's not a lot of big dishes because, it doesn't make a lot of sense to cook for one and do that.
Right.
So,
What's
the second question?
The second question here is, I've recently been playing a number of games that, while excellent, wouldn't fit the style of a show like Watch Out for Fireballs or most similar podcasts due to their structures, though the Frostpunk episode showed you guys are quite adept at working around limitations. For now, though, are there any games that either of you have been interested in doing for a show before realizing it wouldn't be a good fit?
No, I think that we've we talked about this earlier on accident. Like we didn't answer these questions on purpose and the same thing, but I think that I want to think of the show as something that we can at least make an attempt at anything.
Yeah.
So there's nothing I'm like, oh, this wouldn't work. Like I've been playing it basically nonstop. I've been thinking about like how a Darkest Dungeon episode would work. And that show there, the game is very run based, but it would totally work. Like going area to area, class to class, boss to boss, would basically do it. And Hamlet, and it would be a full big meaty episode. I think there are definitely games though that would not work for a premium episode. Yeah, that's the hard bit. Like games that are all mechanics like that can't go in that last slot, but they can go in any other slot.
Right.
So
yeah, so like the big genre that I play that we don't normally cover on the show is something like management sims, but Frostpunk showed that we can do that. So yeah.
Yeah, I think we can try everything. Final lightning round question: what are the best and worst Christmas periods that you can remember?
I don't know what Christmas period means. I'm just seeing like Christmas times, Christmas days, stuff like that.
Yeah. Yep. So boy, best Christmas. I don't know. Like you get yourself a bad childhood like mine. They're not good. I've had good Christmases, but there's asterisks next to all of them.
Yeah.
So I don't have a good answer for that. And I know that's not saying that for attention or a cry for help. It's just kind of true.
Yeah.
Lots of mad Christmases for me.
I don't know. So. The Christmas where I got the Dreamcast was good, but like that was less about getting the thing, but it was just a good time with the family and all of that. Like just a lot of like, just it felt like just like an endless 2-week period of, kind of being in a cozy basement with family playing games and stuff like that. So I don't know. I look back on that. It's weird when I think about like how I generally mark my Christmases by what system I got or by what game I got, and that doesn't seem like the thought process of an extremely happy person.
It's the intention of Christ, though. So.
The worst. There have been Christmases where somebody's been sick and like family member had to be taken to the hospital. There have been Christmases shortly after losses in the family and stuff. Like bad Christmas periods have been, it's pretty easy and depressing to imagine how that could go bad. So,
yeah. I have the Christmas I got a Super Nintendo. I had a thing where I opened a Christmas gift and it was a Super Nintendo game before I opened the Super Nintendo. And like that's a real classic Christmas thing. And that would be really positive. I was just at my like shitty stepdad's family's house who like I hated me. So like the gift part of it was good. Everything around it wasn't good. And then I've had the opposite where I've had kind of like pleasant Christmases with girlfriends or whatever, but it's as an adult and it's just kind of like a nice time.
Yeah.
So it's not, like holiday memories are not really a thing for me. Moving on to our topic for this episode, I'll go ahead and read this out here. This comes from Dave. Dave says, this is a discussion on the importance of video game endings. I just recently finished Fell Seal Arbiter's Mark and found it to be a faithful spiritual successor to Final Fantasy Tactics, and mechanically a great time. My one major frustration came with the structure of the endings. Without getting too spoilery, there is a bad ending and a true final ending. The bad ending makes sense mechanically, but the story bits make you feel awful for how you left the state of the world. On the other hand, the true final ending has you jumping through obscure hoops with arbitrary mechanics that almost demand referencing a wiki or guide. To me, the previous 40 hours of a slick and engaging campaign were severely undercut by a maddeningly tedious final 10 hours. Trying to do right by these characters I've grown attachments with while trying to solve the riddles of the true ending. My questions for you are, how important are video game endings to the overall enjoyment of a game in the moment? What about a game's legacy? Why do you think developers of games with multiple endings would choose an overly obscure pathway to their true ending, see Arkham Knight, some Persona games, rather than allowing player calculation, like in Witcher 3 or Divinity 2? How do we treat video game endings differently than book or movie endings? When compared with other mediums and their endings, are the stakes higher for video games due to the time investment typically required? So figured at the end of the year, this end of our first year of doing these, a good and fitting question.
Yeah. So my general like shortcut through this, is something I genuinely believe, but shuts down conversation and doesn't necessarily have a place in this, is that I'm just not bothered by bad endings, quote unquote. It doesn't really factor in too much for me. Maybe that's a defense mechanism that comes from
vocab something real quick.
Yes.
Sorry to cut you off because I think it's important. I think we need to make a real delineation between bad ending as in low quality and bad ending as in you got the bad ending of the game.
Yes.
So do you mean a game that kind of shits the bed at the end, or do you mean a game that like you get the world is ended despite your efforts ending?
I mean, shits the bed. In generally any medium as well. This is specifically about video games, so like it's important to make that kind of distinction. But like in terms of like the narrative itself, where it's like, oh, that doesn't follow, or that doesn't make a lick of sense, or like a franchise topper like a Mass Effect 3. And what people see as what happens there, or to pull something from the recent past on the show here, Deus Ex, where you're literally just selecting an ending based on by going up to a button, like that shit just doesn't bother me, and it never invalidates what came before.
Yeah. For me, a low quality ending has an impact, but it doesn't invalidate. It matters. So like a good example that I use for this is Uzumaki, which is, probably my favorite manga. I think it's really, really good. I think that there are still nuggets of good stuff at the ending, but I don't think that Ito knows how to end a story.
No.
Endings are really hard. They're very hard in horror. And I think that it ends up being it lasts for me. It's an asterisk.
Yeah.
If I'm rereading that or if I'm recommending that, I feel like I do need to warn people like, hey, this just kind of wet farts at the end.
Yeah.
Like this does not have a good, because to me, a good ending is really powerful, and does a lot of work. So it does matter to me. It's not weighted equally. The bulk of how I experience a work is always what's going to matter the most.
Yeah.
I don't have that feeling where like a bad ending takes away anything that came from before, but I'm always like, if this just actually wrapped up, like if this, like, there's a reason why The Wire is such a good show. Like it just, like one of the reasons, like it ends just really perfectly. Or The Wire compared to Game of Thrones, or something like that, where it's like, yeah, the ending of Game of Thrones mattered. Like, yeah, it fucking sucked. It doesn't mean that the early seasons weren't good. I'm rewatching them now with my girlfriend, and they're really good. Yeah, like really good. But it sucks that story just decided to be shitty because by volume, a portion of the story was shitty.
Yeah.
I always, whenever I think about media, it's very, very hard for me. I don't have the bad, like Will talks about it as if like the bad parts turn into static. For him, it's just like, I just don't see them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what an amazing gift to just like ignore, because why you could just like anything.
Yeah.
Because you don't notice the bad parts. I know that's not what you're saying. But like for me, the bad parts always matter.
Yeah.
Of everything. They're not all weighted equally. Yeah. So a bad ending, a crappy ending will matter to me.
Yeah.
Just not huge.
I think that I come out swinging like that mostly because there's a version. This feels like a straw man, but I've actually seen this where somebody will say weak endings are immediately disqualifying for a media for a piece of media or for a creator, and so like it does not come like it just it does not come up without somebody saying, oh, that is shit. Like, why would you waste the time beginning when it doesn't end properly? And I'm just immediately suspicious of any kind of disqualification like that. So it is not an asterisk. It is just like a damning. It is a verbal flaw that makes discussion of a thing broadly in front of a lot of people fucking intolerable because it just jumps in front of everything else.
Was it as a Stephen King fan? You basically have to be okay with that, right?
Yes, that is a particular defense mechanism that I have that I have assembled by being a Stephen King fan. Like I don't care. I don't mind the ending to The Stand. Like, don't come at me with that.
Yeah, there's a big difference between there's a big gradient there. Like I'm with you in that it's not a verbal thing.
Yeah.
Even though like I think it matters per the work, right? So like people talking about what happens with Lost was what scared me off of Lost.
Yeah.
I never watched that show, and part of the reason why is everyone's like, yeah, it shits the bed, and it's a show based on mysteries, where a lot of the joy you're having in the first half or the first part of it feels like, and I haven't watched it again, but I'm repeating other people's words and other smart people. Like you might disagree with this, but it's not like some guy was yelling behind a Safeway and I transcribed it. Like this is something that like, people have said about it, is that like a lot of the joy is in the mystery and wondering what might happen. And then when what might happen is dog shit, that does have a backwards reaching effect that makes it feel bad. The thing about the reason why Uzumaki works and isn't invalidated by its bad ending is the whole time the question of that is not why has the spiral haunted this town? What are the origins of the spiral? Like that is not, characters aren't talking about that. That's not the mystery. There's like a bit of surreal remove and immediacy in the situations that obfuscates that question to where like I didn't really end up asking that question until the characters started asking at the end.
Right.
And it didn't matter, and the answer is not satisfying, but it didn't matter because I didn't spend a lot of time asking that. If there was a really cool answer for that, it would have been awesome. Yeah. But it wasn't mandatory. It's not verbal. Yeah. I think there are works in which a good ending is kind of mandatory. And games are interesting like this too, because so in games it's pretty atypical that I really care that much about the ending.
Yeah.
In terms of it being high or low quality. We'll talk about like bad endings in terms of like bad narrative endings as well.
Mm-hmm.
But just in terms of quality, like I care so much about how you spend the bulk of a game.
Yeah.
Which is why, like, Final Fantasy V was so torturous for me. Like, that's why something like the end of Human Revolution doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
I wish it was the end of Deus Ex 1. It wasn't, but getting there is such a joy that that's how I spent the bulk of my time. That was the majority of the experience.
Yeah.
That time investment insulates you to an ending for me in terms of like a low quality ending.
Yeah. And that gets to one of the questions that Dave asked here, like why do we treat, the endings of games, or do we treat the endings of games differently than books or movies and stuff? And it gets back to something we said earlier in the episode. You spend more time with these things, right? It is a kind of work, in a value, stripped of value sense of that word, right? You are working to get to that ending. You're putting effort in, and how those hours leading up to it are spent makes a difference, more of a difference than in other stuff.
And you're enjoying it on different axes. So like a game, one of the ways that a game can kind of shit the bed at the end is through like being frustration. Like you can have Zen, or the end boss of Half-Life, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a different, a game or movie, or a book or movie rather, that just kind of has like an unsatisfying ending. That can feel really bad, but I don't have to just die 1,000 times and reload a bunch to get to it. I can just read the last 20 pages. I don't have to, it's not stopping me from experiencing it.
Yeah.
So there's elements of the play part of this that are really important to the conversation. Something just kind of being unsatisfying at the end is a really, really different feeling than something turning into the end boss of Half-Life 1.
Yeah.
Than something zenning. And they're almost like different discussions.
Yeah.
And something just turning into Human Revolution where it's like, the ending Matic 3000 is not very satisfying is better to me than the end boss of Half-Life 1.
Yeah.
Is better to me than a Zen section.
Yeah.
Because, what you're doing always matters. Like it just, it always matters. So
it never stops.
Kind of how yeah, exactly. It always matters to me, but it doesn't, it's not the biggest thing in the world. It's not verbal.
Yeah. For
me, I think that good endings and bad endings in terms of kind of obfuscating and stuff is really interesting. We're doing Blasphemous for Bonfireside Chat next. I just beat that game. I looked up how to get the good ending. I did not get anywhere close to it. It's obscure and ridiculous. And the bad ending I got was very discouraging. Like it was basically, congratulations, go fuck yourself as an ending.
In fairness, the good ending is also that.
That's my understanding as well, which is fine, which is good. It's the tone of the game. But I get pretty annoyed by this stuff. I don't think this is a good way to put your good ending behind things. Like the examples that you put in there, where like Divinity 2, Witcher 3, where your good ending is based on your player choice in the moment and how well you've been role playing and how diligent you've been, as opposed to hiding secrets. Feels like almost like a tabletop lineage versus like a Solomon's Key style hidden shit lineage, almost to me. Like these like Western RPGs that you're citing have a tabletop sense to them where like it is about role playing. So you put your rewards for role playing as opposed to like, it's cool to have a secret that if you jump in the specific spot, a gem appears. That's what it feels like. There's almost like a direct line there. Between, hunt down the secret endings like that.
I mean, for me, one of the things that makes the biggest difference is how long ago did I make the mistake that led to me getting this and seeing this? Right? Because, there are examples where you make a bad decision toward the start of this and that puts you on the road to something else. Now, there are like whole genres that I have, probably more of a tolerance for than you do, Gary, where that is just a way that the story branches. And you're not like, it's not that you're getting a bad ending. You are just getting a different ending that shows you more of the thing. It's just a different part of the flow chart that ultimately leads to the, to the actual ending. But there are,
you're having the whole Rashomon story.
So seeing it from every angle, all the ways that it could go wrong as compared to the one way that it can go right. You're getting useful information and all of them. It's just, an ending is just a step onto the other one. But like, I don't know, it sucks. It sucks being told, hey, you made a mistake. When did I make that mistake? 20 hours ago and you didn't know you were being tested. Right.
Yeah. And it's funny because that ties into, Witcher 3, which we talked about, unintended consequences being a really sophisticated and cool thing that we like about games.
Yeah.
And it depends on defining bad.
Yeah.
Right. So like when you have the narratively bad ending, there's narratively bad where the game is going for some kind of gray, there are no happy endings in this world.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's not a world where that really fits things. You can have the happiest possible ending, but it's still not going to be sunshine and lollipops because that's not the story we're telling.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can have the actually you didn't succeed in your goal. Everything is doomed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ending, which is what it sounds like, Fell Seal does. And, because I've not played that game, so I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
but it sounds like that's what, Dave is referring to.
Yeah.
That's a different kind of thing to present. Like that is if you make the mistake 20 hours ago and you've just fucked up the world, like that feels really bad.
Yeah.
What I find rather than you making a mistake 20 hours ago, a thing that I think is really common, which is what happens in Blasphemous, what happens in Hollow Knight, et cetera, is you play the bulk of the game and then there is a task at the end that is go do optional area or go fight all the optional things.
Mm-hmm.
And then they put the good ending behind that. And I find that exceedingly obnoxious.
Yes.
It's optional. So I don't, it doesn't take anything from me. I just don't do it. But I think it's just annoying because I feel a little bit like I'm being slapped on the wrist. I'm kind of being punished, and the other way to look at it is you're being rewarded for doing all this optional stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but it happening in the last 10% of the game. It's like pacing, you want the sense of urgency. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm near the end of this thing. I'm going to go face the big threat. The world is about to end. This feels really right.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go to all these hidden areas and fight all these ghost bosses,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm just fucking around.
Yeah.
And just saying that I'm just going to start fucking around at 90% in feels really weird and bad to me. And that being the wrong choice or, that being the right choice.
Yeah.
Go fuck around, go kill some ghosts,
And the extreme example of that is given in the question here, Arkham Knight, right?
Yeah.
Where that
Yep.
ending, which is only marginally better than the original one, than the one you get, is hidden behind engaging with a bunch of bad systems, right? Providing narrative closure as a reward for engaging with these challenge modes or XYZ, these things that might not be mechanically satisfying to you. This is irrational because the developer is not talking directly to me, but it feels like the director saying, oh, you actually don't get this game. You're playing it wrong if you don't enjoy going and fighting those ghosts. You're playing it wrong if you don't enjoy going after all those Riddler trophies, et cetera, and down the line. Right.
Like the White Palace, which is totally a different type of gameplay mode than what we've been spending most of the game doing.
Mm-hmm.
If that's not your thing, then you fucked up.
Right.
And it's like, well, and the punishment you're getting is just getting a different ending. It's not that big, and losing some content, like not facing a boss. So it's not the end of the world. Yeah. But philosophically, I think it's kind of shitty.
Yeah.
I think one of the things I think about with gamers and the way that gamers think about good and bad and endings and stuff in games is that I wish more games had what I consider, and not everyone does, but I consider both endings of Dishonored to be valid. I think the high chaos one is cooler than the low chaos one, but I don't think of that as good and bad.
Yeah.
And I want more things. I wish that more people approach games like they do tabletop, where something going bad or something having a suboptimal end for a non-happy ending can just be cooler. Like it's a choice on a menu.
Yeah.
This is the way the story goes. I watch movies, I read books where things don't go well for the characters. Why can't I play a game where this just doesn't go well for my character? And maybe, Geralt is miserable. Maybe Geralt goes off and witches alone until he dies alone because he fucked up his relationship with Ciri. That's a valid end to that character and story to me. I don't think that that's something that to be avoided. And I think it's deft. It kind of plays into the Jade Empire stuff. It takes good writing to make those endings feel narratively satisfying while being negative. And the alternative is, oh, you fucked up and the Wild Hunt is taking over the world.
Right.
That's how it would be in this Fell Steel kind of way. But just making it it's kind of a sad ending for your guy, but sometimes those are some of my favorites.
Yeah.
Bloodborne does that well. Weird example. I think Bloodborne's does a great job with that.
Right. Even the quote best ending that you get, you're still it's kind of Innsmithy, to go to something we talk about in the Unfilmable that's coming out this month about Dagon, right?
Yeah.
It it is an uncomfortable ending, but it is still for different versions of for different interpretations of the word good, a good ending. And because as a gamer I had to do more work, this is obviously the good ending. Another example of this, just where things don't always have to work out well, Silent Hill 2. Has many different endings outside of the dog ending. I don't think that there are any endings on those that are actually like a bad fit, right? Like, there are different, obviously there's like the good ending where you get out of the town and you have a daughter, a surrogate daughter to take with you, etc. But like the bad endings, as devastating as any of them are they still feel appropriate, right? Because it is the ending to that kind of tragic story. In fact, I think like the next to worst ending where you leave with Maria and she has the cough, like that is much sadder and much grimmer than the in water ending, right?
Yeah,
it's just different conditions.
I like it a lot more.
Oh yeah.
I love that ending of that story for that character.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's just kind of it's just good. It's like a quality of writing.
Yeah.
Thing, it's harder to do that. It is harder to do a game where like I can actually like this real downbeat ending. Like I think about Sekiro, like the best ending of that where you put in the most gamer points and did the most chores, I think is dumb as hell.
Yep.
Like I think the Dragon's Return ending where it's like you're gonna you suck Kuro into a clone body to like go on another adventure is the least narratively satisfying ending in that game.
Yeah.
And takes the most work. Like having, it just being sad, like Kuro and Emma mourning Sekiro.
Yeah.
It's like a better end to that story. It's not the good ending, but it is a better ending. It makes a very better story. And that takes good writing to do that and have it and not be that. And that's rare in games, right?
Yeah.
Like that's not an original observation, but it's just kind of true. And part of the reason why I think it's rare in games is because games are serving gamers and gamers like to get the good boy point. Like we talked about that a lot this month with Tyranny.
Yeah.
Like gamers want just like everything to be happy and you've filled up all the meters, and because games in large are kind of escapists.
Grade me, validate me.
There's an element of that, right? And it's fine if that's how you experience games, but it's not my favorite thing. I don't think it's the coolest thing games can do.
Right.
I think your Silent Hill 2s or your Torments, or your Bloodborns or your Witcher 3s are the more interesting endings that you can do. And it's because they make for a better story that would stand up to other fiction. Like if this was a movie or this was a book, this would be a better story. It doesn't feel artificial because everything worked out.
Right.
I also I love games where they have an ending and they're pretty rotten and there's just one where there's not choices. I love the ending of Final Fantasy Tactics.
Yes.
That is a really uncomfortable and sad ending to that story, but that was the story.
Yes.
That was what happened. And I just think that's a better way of storytelling. It's what I appreciate more in stories. I think it's more sophisticated and richer.
Yeah. And we talked about this too. I mean, it's been a little bit of like the past 6 months talking about, does media have to be difficult to be good? It is ambiguity problematic, especially when it's introduced at the end. We've been talking about that in regards to movies and stuff as well. The answer is just not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
And not necessarily not either, but it's just kind of so I think that the idea, when games have the kind of wiki endings, like, hey, go collect all the doodads and that's how you get the good ending.
Right.
It plays into something we talked about on the show is like the security to let content be unseen.
Yeah. Yeah.
From developers. And that's something that is a skill and a confidence that not everybody has. Like Arkham Knight feels very unconfident to me in that choice. And so it's like another virtue. It's like an admirable trait, the perspective the authors of a game can have that have a positive knock-on effect.
Yeah.
They don't do this, like go do all the wiki stuff to get the good ending because they're confident. It feels insecure.
Yeah.
To do that to me.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah. And a lot of this feels much less devastating now than it would have 15 years ago. Where you would like read in a guide about how to get this particular ending, but no, fuck, I'm not going to do that because now YouTube exists.
Yep. So. I can just watch it and just kind of be and just, earlier kind of a weird accidental theme this whole episode was like letting go of stuff.
you know, and just like the idea that I'll cut bait.
Yeah.
You know, like I got the bad end, like I never got the good ending of Hollow Knight. Like I loved Hollow Knight. I never fought the proper boss of it.
Right.
You know, and I maybe never will. Like I got that game again thinking I'll replay it. I might end up replaying it. I love that game.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to do all the stuff. I don't know if I feel like doing the White Palace and going fighting all those ghosts.
You're probably going to replay it and do the stuff that's fun.
Well, exactly. And that plays into us doing the Tyranny, you know, doing the same Tyranny playthrough.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like there's the best games allow you to kind of experience them that way that is fun and don't try to punish you for not doing everything or completing everything.
Right.
Like that. Like it's not an interesting thing to test. I think.
Completion.
You know, if the idea is completionism is not a cool or interesting thing to you know, I don't feel like I am exhibiting a virtue.
Yeah.
When I'm a completionist.
Grade me, look at me, evaluate and rank me. Oh, I'm good, and oh so smart. Sorry, I had to look up the actual quote.
Yeah. It's real though, right?
Yeah.
Like there are people who consider that to be like that's how they engage with games. Like this is a way to be evaluated.
Yeah. Well, I'm not even going to like put that entirely outside myself. I recognize that in myself sometimes, and it's something I kind of buck against, and you know, try and push away.
As you get older, like you get to realize like, hey, maybe I don't have to be evaluated by external things.
Right.
You know, maybe that was a fake idea that I grew up with. And like, actually I get to be my own person and be self-actualized and not seek external validation. You know, it's a cool part of it growing up and being a person. It's recommended.
Yeah.
Like as a thing.
Yeah, and if you're not there yet, we're not like saying, haha, people are not as moved along.
Yeah,
like it's
if you don't agree, that's also fine.
Yeah.
For me, realizing that like I don't have to hold myself up to the like external standards of things I don't care about the developers of Hollow Knight if they don't think I'm good enough to do this. It's part of like it plays into that difficulty conversation because like the idea that, you know, Sekiro did not have difficulty options because the developers were trying to get you to rise to their level. What do I care about whether the developers like they don't know me? I don't exist to them. They're not going to like admire me for doing this.
Yeah, and
they're abstract. They don't count.
And what did they do, you know, to deserve having things turned around where they have to rise up to my expectations as somebody who wants to have fun playing this game? Like, you know. I don't know. That was probably overbroad and not specifically applicable to Sekiro, but like the idea that you have to rise up to their expectation as opposed to it being the other way around, which is generally like the tacitly accepted, you know, direction for that to go. You know, it's kind of like just what gives you the right, you know?
Yeah, it's
I'm the one who has the power button.
Exactly. You know, episode 1, like don't threaten me with boredom.
Yeah.
You know, I can always just like I have that Steam library that also ties into a question in this episode waiting for me. I have hundreds of other games I've never played before that are just there vying for my attention. Yeah. Like, you know, playing Bad Cop with me does not work. Yeah. You know, because I don't have to play that game. And then there's lots of ways that applies to the real world, you know? Yeah. Like I with coffee, my preferred sweetener is Splenda. Splenda's getting out of style. There's rarer Splendas. Yeah. If I go to a coffee place and there aren't Splendas, I'll straight walk into a family restaurant, walk up to a table and take a Splenda and leave. And I've done it. And like, I've been, you know, with my girlfriend or been with somebody and they're like, what are you doing? You can't do that. I'm like, are they going to stop me? Like, what are they going to do? You know, it doesn't, no gods, no masters. Getting in trouble is a fake idea.
Yep.
Like, you know, don't allow yourself to,
if you're white, if you're white.
If you're white, thank God, please bring us back down, baby. It is if you're white. I would have been a puddle on the floor if I had done that, you know. Yeah. But it's just, I mean, that's not true. I could have had the cops called on me because Portland is a racist city. But yeah, I just, you know, the idea of like always wanting to be evaluated and always wanting to play with, and those things are not, I don't know, worth questioning.
Yeah. They are not ... I don't know. It's worth questioning. It's not. They're not worth questioning. They're not worth. I just want to make sure it didn't come across that you said the opposite of what you intended.
Yes. Yeah. I'm not saying. Yeah. Unquestionably. Follow the rules. If you're not getting the 100% ending on Hollow Knight, you have not played the game.
It is worth. It is worth questioning that instinct.
Yes, absolutely.
Or that assumption.
And And if you operate on that assumption and you enjoy it, and like it just like this is how games make sense to you and you're having fun is real. I'd never take that away from you.
Yeah.
But in terms of like why I think devs do that and what I personally think about it, that's basically how I feel about it.
Yeah. Well,
play how you want though. If you take joy from being a completionist, like that's cool. You're taking real joy, and I would never stop you.
Yeah. It's just a matter of like this is what I am hearing. Like this is what their communication is saying to me. The developers, when I am faced with this, when I'm faced with that kind of ending for not, going and doing all the Coliseum battles or whatever.
Yeah, doing all the wiki stuff. There's an element too of like, every time a Souls game comes out, in the Bonfireside chat channel on the Slack, like it has become at least some people, like a good handful of people, are miserable grinding all the Covenant rewards.
Yeah,
they still do it. So I'm sure they're taking some kind of joy from it, but like, boy, during Dark Souls 2, did everyone hate that?
Yeah.
And I was like, what? There's a way that does not make sense to me as a behavior. Like, why would you do it?
Yeah.
And
you don't want to question the way somebody has fun. It's the same thing with platinuming games, right? And we're like, oh, I had to work so hard and do so much onerous stuff to platinum. I have to assume if you're saying this that you're an adult who makes informed decisions about how to spend your time, and me saying, oh, that's dumb, why would you do that to yourself, is patronizing and weird and not necessarily the best look. But also, I don't get it, man.
Well, I don't get it. And in this case, they're like just telling me they're not having fun over and over.
That's the thing.
Like, I know they have to be having fun because they're doing it, at least on some level, but they're complaining about it nonstop.
Yeah.
And this isn't me saying like, I wish you'd stop complaining. I'm not annoyed by the complaints. I'm just saying like, boy, like you're not having fun. This is a miserable thing for you. Why would you do it?
Yeah.
It just contributes to that not getting it.
Yeah. I was streaming, and I forget this person's name, and I'm not singling you out, but people talk about the games that they're playing at the time. If they're while they're watching the streams, and somebody said, "Oh, I just platinumed Death Stranding, but I'm not sure if it was worth it." And I kind of went into the whole thing. Like, I'm not going to question the way that you have fun, but like, man, if those last 25 hours were a bummer, which is what you just said. then like, I don't know.
Why would you do it?
Maybe that should be data if you decide to do it again, would be my, would be my suggestion as an uninvolved third party.
Yep. Live and learn.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we got everything that's in that question, but I think that we had managed to have a lively and unstructured conversation about endings.
Yes.
So.
which is the point.
Yep.
Yeah.
So good. So thanks everybody. We are going to now read your responses to December's games, and then we will be announcing what we're doing in February after that.
Yeah.
If you want to ask a question for our dispatch, or suggest a topic, you do so by being a patron. If you go to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv, we have a bunch of topics saved up. So probably after the holidays and Duckstream, we will sit down and do, another patron only topic episode.
Yeah. You just clear the docket a little bit. Yeah. So going to get started here with responses about Tyranny. Michael writes in via contact. During your coverage of Tyranny on the podcast, you both mentioned a few times how cool it would be to have a Tyranny tabletop source book for world building and lore and such. You're sort of in luck. Fantasy Flight published a campaign setting called Midnight for 3rd edition Dungeons & Dragons in 2003 and updated it for 3.5e in 2005 as Midnight 2nd edition. The world state of Midnight is essentially the same as that in Tyranny. The big bad won, and the world bends under their reign. Though much of Midnight sorts through the rules about how adventurers can survive and fight back in a world where reading, weapons, and magic are outlawed, there are also rules for being legates, read martial casters, not unlike Fatebinders, for the new overlord, opening plenty of possibilities for subversion and intrigue within the ranks of the winning team. Obviously, it doesn't have the exact world building of Tyranny's Rust Canyons or Old Walls, but there's still lots of nice bits of story and flavor to be found if you're looking to deliciously darken the mood at the table for a spell.
That's cool. I'd never heard of that.
Neither have I.
Yeah, I'll keep an eye out for that. Because 3.5 and 3 are 2 editions of D&D I didn't play very much of. So when I see those source books at the thrift store or something like that, I don't tend to pay very close attention.
Yeah.
But I will take a look.
That's also a function of names. Like if I saw a source book called Midnight, I probably wouldn't pay attention to it.
Yeah, I just assume it was just a module. or something like that, like as opposed to, so yeah, that's cool. I will definitely take a look at that. Julia says via contact, Tyranny is the only isometric CRPG to hook me so far. It's compelling, creative, and tonally consistent, but I gave up after about 7 hours. I just felt ill every time I played it. Role-playing as a scared fascist lackey is just not for me. Tyranny is well executed, but its premise, what if you were the bad guy, and if the bad guys were very evil, is just an impossibly tightrope to walk. And the fact that it often empowers the player for making the worst decisions is totally unacceptable for me right now. In the end, it's like masterful painting of an infected abscess. Sure, it's competent, but is it good? Thanks for the episode. For me, this one is a service.
That's reasonable.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. I would never say like if you, especially when you say like for me right now.
Yeah.
Right. Like there's definitely like a not talking to clouds on a sunny day.
Yeah.
Thing that I understand. Or not talking to clouds on a stormy day.
Yeah.
Thing that I understand. Like there are times in my life where I'm like I've not fired up Pathologic 2.
Yeah.
Just because like that's the pit, and it's like I'm interested in it. I'm sure it's really good.
Yeah.
I just haven't wanted to like dive in the pit because of mental health stuff.
Yeah.
This kind of thing never feels, this kind of fiction, this kind of like dark fantasy fiction never feels so real to me. It doesn't feel like Hatred or Postal or anything like that has like a real world analog. It just feels like, Game of Thronesy.
Yeah.
To me in a way that it doesn't activate those mirror neurons for me.
Yeah. And I'm not going to look at somebody who is saying, oh, I don't want to enact scared lackey fascism when I recognize that around me. Like, oh yeah, no, I get that 100%. I also get like, I don't know, just why would you touch the stove if you know it's the stove? Like, like dark fantasy stuff generally is pretty far from reality, but I still am not rushing to do an evil playthrough of Torment because that is a particular kind of existential horror that I don't feel like inflicting on characters that I care about, Yeah.
Yeah. Appetites for darkness are a real, gamer psychographic.
Yeah.
And like one of the reasons, like a nice thing about this show is you and I both have real bottomless appetites for darkness.
Yes.
Which is why we can do all these like really bleak survival horror stuff and things like that are actually, like why we came away from Silent Hill 2 being like, oh, this is like masterpiece class, not, hey, this is too sad to consider.
Yes.
Because that is also an extremely bleak game. I think that one of the things about Tyranny is that, and I'm not saying that Julia is doing this, but I think that it does it a disservice to put it in that Postal Hatred box.
Yeah.
I think that it is more than a scared fascist lackey simulator. You have a lot of room for expression in that. I think the premise is that it's that though, and you have to kind of work to buck that. Yeah. Which I think is a strength, but it's also something that can turn it into the stove for somebody.
Yeah. I can also see somebody saying, oh, this game's marketing is telling me that's what this is, so I'll believe them. Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. Like it is the premise. It is the premise of the game, even though it's not, I don't think it's strictly true to the execution of it. So yeah, I definitely don't fault anybody for just not wanting to do a game where bad stuff happens. Yeah. Like it is, my Twitter timeline, my peers are full of like, there's like a thing recently. I know, again, this is not what Julia's saying at all. I'm not painting any kind of brush on her. But like Scott Benson had a tweet I really loved where he was talking about how indie games are full of people patting themselves on the back for making Tender Frog House instead of Call of Duty. And that was such a good articulation of something I've been struggling with all year.
I mean, since the one about violence. Yeah.
Like, I get annoyed at people patting themselves on the back for, I actually enjoy Goose Game and Pleasant Hike. I don't enjoy games where you shoot people. Yeah. I don't want to play Dusk. I want to play Tender Frog Simulator. And it's like, well,
that's really close to being Martin Prince and playing the My Dinner with Andre. And like, I only play the My Dinner with Andre arcade game. Tell me more. Like, that's not great either, man.
Yeah, just don't pat yourself on the back for it.
Yeah,
and again, Julia's not doing that. I just mean that I understand there are people who are patting themselves on the back. There are also people who are just like, I just can't stomach violence right now. Yeah, and I have no disdain for those people. Like, it's fine.
I can't stomach violence, or I can't stomach being put in a position to inflict violence. I can't stomach bad things happening in games, or I can't stomach being the person who enacts those bad things in games. Like, all of those are useful points of articulation to be able to spot, right?
Yeah. And my only annoyance is when it becomes self-satisfied, or when games get the automatic gold star for not doing those things.
Yeah. Like those Frog Detective games look cute as fuck, and I've played one and it's nice, but yeah, it's not necessarily, And it's not necessarily something, something that solves a problem just by existing. Yeah.
Yes. There's so much. We talked about this in that Violence Dispatch, but like I think about that as so much of why aren't there more games about just hanging out with your friends and having birthday parties as a rejection of genre more than a rejection of violence.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's like, well, we don't have a lot of movies and books about that either.
Mm-hmm.
We don't make media about, someone going on an uneventful hike without drama or conflict. Like conflict is the soul of drama. Like that's something baked into stories. It's not something baked into video games.
Yeah.
And it's part of the reason why the Tender Frog House stuff drives me nuts.
Yeah.
So anyhow, again, that's not me calling out Julia. Just kind of when I think about there's two different kinds of class of people for whom this is not for. There are people who are like, yeah, I can't handle this. Like, I don't want that violence, and like that makes sense to me. And there are people who are like, yeah, it's evil that this exists because games should just be about giving high fives, to teachers that you liked in high school. And I'm like, well, okay.
Yeah, it is. We have a disagreement about whether or not it is our project to try and balance the scales. Like that the violence that exists is a debt that we need to pay down, and everything that bucks against that is just building the other side of the ledger higher. Yeah.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah. Like I don't think of art as debt like that.
Yeah.
What does Luke say?
Luke says, via contact, Tyranny probably falls among my favorite top 10 games of all time, despite being a somewhat humble production that ends in a huge blue balls moment. Because of your coverage, I felt like hopping back in for another playthrough, opting to respond naturally as opposed to specifically role-playing a character. Turns out role-playing as me leads me to accidentally showing the Vendrian Guard too much mercy while getting kind of a buzz on. One thing led to another, and before I knew it, I was leading the Coalition of the Tears. I was hoping to steer it toward pragmatic, self-serving evil, but the Rebel path really does push you toward being a good guy. My ending cards were all extremely optimistic. Unified Tears, Subjugated Tunon, Barrack living as my bodyguard. Who knew that I could be such a good overlord while getting drunk off my ass?
Being drunk and accidentally being good is funny to me.
I like that quite a bit.
Yeah. Like I intended to be an asshole, but I was drunk and gave somebody a present. Fuck,
Yeah. I mean, if I was role-playing as myself, if I was not leaning into my crepulence with this, then I would that probably would be what I followed. But the Vendrian Guard wasn't what I was there for. So
yeah, it's a different way. That game is one of the ways that game is good.
Mm-hmm.
It allows you to express yourself and the self that you're going to try on for a little bit.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Riley says via contact, I played Tyranny siding with the rebels, building up an army loyal to me, all the time skirting through by obeying the letter of the law while having clear disregard for the intent, or so I thought. As I went on, it started to become crystal clear, that Kyros was all too aware of the loopholes in their wordings. To the Overlord, building an army out of the Tears' dissonance, killing other Archons, and securing control of the Tears is perfectly acceptable, so long as I'm loyal to them. The highlight of Base Neverwinter Nights 2 was the trial scene, and Tyranny's trumps it. Winning Tunon's loyalty by successfully arguing I never actually committed treason is fantastic. At the end of the game, I swore fealty to Kyros. The would-be rebels are now my vassals, and by extension, the overlords. I couldn't help but see how my own Archon's rise paralleled Graven Ash. Though we never met Kyros, their cunning and secrecy and cold pragmatism made them truly a memorable villain. Also, as an aside, it's neat how Tyranny just happens to have more female companions than male. Games typically have an even balance or more men, so it's cool to see a game that forgoes that. Yeah, it is definitely like Lady Squad. The first time I played with a lady, and I had all ladies with me once I eventually ditched Barrack. But the, it is that is a cool thing about it. And all those hints about, it being Kyros's will that you're doing on accident do make that such a good villain. Mm-hmm. Again, just smart. Like he feels smart and well written. Yeah. He's not a twirling, abstract.
Yeah.
Like an angry abstract.
And it is a fantastic expression of a mastermind, somebody who just arranges it so that you doing the thing that most benefits you also benefits them.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a cool and risky place to play in.
You have never escaped their influence, and their greatest trick was convincing you that you did.
Mm-hmm. and then they, eventually you can rebel against him.
Mm-hmm.
At the end. And like the nice thing, that's the thing that I liked about the endings that we got, which was like, that's what they thought, but they chose the wrong tool.
I will still stick my thumb in your eye.
Yeah. Bite the hand.
Let's see here. Gordon writes via contact. Quite a few RPGs toy with the idea of belief creating reality. The Archons and Tyranny add an incredibly interesting aspect of personal horror to this by being a runaway process, often out of the control of the person at its focus. And as his fame grows, a stony giant, the effect becomes stronger, leading him to becoming a literal stone giant. A composed and logical lawyer becomes a will-less embodiment of law. A two-faced and shadowy spy master becomes a multi-faced creature of nightmares. An Archon gains powers, but they lose themselves and become a caricature of who the world believes them to be, both physically and mentally. The story of Tyranny ends before the ramifications are truly felt by the protagonist, which is a shame, as this would have made excellent epilogue material to see what the player's actions have ultimately shaped their character into.
A big spire.
Yeah, probably another spire. That's where the spires came from. Hello,
I'm a spire. Like, live in me. Recruit for me. Recruit for my hat.
Build a library on my head.
Yeah, I would like a book hat, please. I'm the Archon of Spires. Give me forge hat.
Tell the Smiths to not hammer so loudly.
Oh, I got a headache. I'm the Archon of Spires.
We're not
making fun for it.
No.
This is the largest tiers I could afford.
Exactly.
But yeah, that is an awesome part of that game. Surprising amount of torment DNA in there.
Love that. Well put.
Very, very cool. Well put. Absolutely. Darth Ender says, I really loved playing this game. After reading about the premise and deciding how I wanted to be able to play through the game, I was pleasantly surprised to find out that at every step of the way, everything I wanted to do, I was able to do. I essentially played through the game with the intention of taking control away from my evil overlord, but to do so by playing along and just doing my job really well for the entire game and then betraying them at the very end. And that's exactly what I did. Traveling the land, assisting our people wherever possible, fixing all the disasters throughout the land, quelling the rebellious population, solving people's personal issues. So by the end of the game, I'd pretty much convinced all the people of the tiers that my solutions were always the best solutions they were going to get for their problems. I'd won over pretty much every one of Kuros's Archons, except for the voices. That guy had to go. Yep. Convinced Graven that I was the disfavored true leader. Even convinced Tunon that my justice was the true justice. And only at the very end did I declare myself the true ruler of the tiers. What was surprising was how, even though I ended up declaring myself the tyrannical ruler at the end, it still somehow felt like a good ending. As I'd essentially put an end to the fighting, convinced the locals that my tough but fair brand of dictatorship was a boon to them, while curtailing a lot of the outright villainy or Kuros's own forces under my command. I know there's a path where you can straight up join the people of the tiers against Kuros. That's the real good path. But considering how evil the game lets you get, my ending felt warm and fuzzy by comparison.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also felt like the independent ending is not evil.
Right.
Like it feels like a good ending to me. Mm-hmm. For a similar thing. And I think it is really, really cool this game allows that, because it's the kind of thing I wanted in a lot of video games. Mm-hmm. Why would my character do this? I wouldn't do this.
Yeah.
Don't have to.
I wouldn't work for this person. I would try to stop them.
Yeah. Obsidian.
Yeah.
They let it happen. I don't want to side with Mr. House. Like, just because this guy forced me to come here and told me what to do doesn't mean I have to do it. Nope. Oh, wait, I don't have to. What if I shot oh, shit, I can shoot the thing.
Okay, cool. No, it's
Obsidian.
Yeah. Just there are consequences. Consequences don't always have to be bad.
Yeah.
Jacob writes via contact, Tyranny is one of my favorite games of all time. After Pillars of Eternity's world building and story really fell flat for me, Tyranny was such an amazing breath of fresh air. I wanted to point out what I feel is one of its greatest background details going on throughout the whole game. Most evil dictators have a law against speaking ill of them because they have fragile egos. But Kuros has to have those laws in place and heavily enforce them because they are well aware of the power of belief. And all of Kuros's complex, inscrutable laws in place are there to specifically shape the people's belief in Kuros to that of an unknowable god. thus making Kyros a god. Even the law against using Kyros' name in vain plays into this. If enough people say, Kyros damn you, will Kyros end up shifting into someone who spends all their time personally punishing petty slights? With how detached they are from the public and how much obfuscating information they put out about themselves, I feel like this whole conquest is because Kyros knows how belief works and everyone is just fuel in the belief engine that is supposed to evolve the overlord into an omnipotent being. I love how Obsidian handled this. And while the game does end abruptly, I almost think it's stronger for not having any sort of confrontation or meeting with Kyros, leaving them as this force that you're never quite sure you've actually defied or not. Finally, a shout out to the DLC for adding an ending that lets you, instead of casting an edict, simply magically declare to the whole world your loyalty to Kyros. I don't know if Obsidian ran out of time before adding that ending in the base game, or if they just didn't expect people to actually want it, but it does, to me, make the game feel more complete by letting the player be a bootlicker the whole way through.
Yeah, it is definitely a good addition.
Yeah.
Previous to that, very well said.
Yeah.
You know, that is a really awesome thing about this game. It's a cool idea of, like, maybe, you know, the idea that no one's ever seen Kyros is because everyone says no one's ever seen him.
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe he does not even really exist at this point because no one's ever seen him.
Right.
You know, it's just this force or this idea, like all of that, like belief shaping reality shit is catnip to me.
Yeah. Especially when it has unintended
good.
conflicts or unintended consequences, you know?
Yeah. Someday way down the road, we should do Tides of Numenera.
Yes.
Because it's not, you know, it's no torment, but it plays in some of the space.
It quite literally is torment, but not torment.
Yeah. I mean, it's cats can have a little torment.
Can have little torment. Everybody always puts the A in the wrong place in that, and it really cheeses me off.
I think they're both cute.
Yeah.
I think cats can have a little salami is very cute.
Yeah.
Like, I think I like them both. But like, I think that, you know, it's not, I don't think that game is perfect or anything, but I do think that it plays in some of these spaces in a really fun way.
Yeah.
So cool shit.
Yeah.
Patcha says, by contact. Hey guys, I picked up Tyranny after your first episode based on what you said about the...
Sorry. You said, hey guys, like Greg. Sorry.
I didn't mean to.
I know.
It's got a mind virus. Hey guys, I picked up Tyranny after your first episode based on what you said about the writing alone. Well, I'm pretty sure I won't get to finish it before the write-in deadline. I want to share a few thoughts with you I had about the game. First, I really appreciate how much a shaded and complex morality allows for more interesting responses or fates for the characters you don't like. I was siding with the Scarlet Chorus since I wanted to get different content than your playthrough, and I was struck by the way which you can handle censor in that route. You hold on to the Silent Archive, but you can offer him a chance to hold it and acquire a portion of its knowledge. When the subject of reporting into the voices comes up, you, knowing full well what will happen to him, point out that he would be a better choice to report back, being a member of the chorus and all. You've outmaneuvered him politically and sent him to a fate worse than death, partially in revenge for getting in your way. That kind of pettiness is great. It's a more complete feeling of anti-heroism than you generally see in games, since the thing you did is terrible, but you need not to have done it for sadistic and capricious reasons. How refreshing. The other point that I think is very much in line with other opinions expressed in Watch Out for Fireballs is how much of a tragedy it is that the combat feels unfun. Early on, when dealing with the Bronze Brotherhood, I found myself choosing options that didn't involve combat because I didn't want that gameplay, not because I thought those choices were in line with the way I wanted to roleplay. It's hard to bring myself to roleplay agreement and law first, but violence is pushed, if the systems make me reluctant to use violence when my characters, as I conceive of them, would probably be okay with it. To make you a parody of yourself, Gary, it's one of the reasons why 0451 games that encourage different styles of play but don't limit your toolbox hold up so well. Give me the freedom and desire to choose a path throughout the game that makes both make sense for my narrative and are both fun in the hands.
Yeah.
Yeah. Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think that, you know, it's the same. I wish that Tyranny had better combat.
Yes.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
I think that in general, like, I think it's not a war crime or anything like that. There are joys to be had in it, but I think that it's the weakest part of the game, and the game would be much better if it had better combat.
It's sensible that it gets in the way for as many people as it does.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And, to that point of like, oh, I can be petty in this, and that is good. I think that's a much finer line to walk, because another expression of pettiness is what happens all the time in Jade Empire, which is pay me. Like,
yeah.
like, it's just like, playing small ball is fun, but there's such a thing as like a real tedious kind of small ball. So like, pettiness is a good word for what happens, for what you do to censor in that playthrough, which is amazing, by the way. But like, it also incorporates and can include, if you don't exercise discretion, stuff that happens in Jade Empire when you take the evil path. Sorry, the closed fist path.
And the closed fist, not evil.
Yeah.
No. Moving on to responses about Jade Empire.
Yes, Jade Empire. Sorry about that. Jade Empire writes, but that was last episode.
Yes. Don't be so mean to me. Why you don't like me?
Alex writes via contact. Jade Empire is in a very strange place for me. As a lifelong fan of wuxia films and a BioWare fanboy, at least at the time, it was one of my most anticipated releases. I was especially into the open palm and closed fist idea. Different takes on the same general path to heroism sounded like a breath of fresh air compared to the alignment grid. Of course, they botched this entirely. And a full-on closed fist spirit monk is one of the most vile and pointlessly evil characters in the history of video games. The practical incarnation, speaking of Torment, was a monster, but I'm pretty sure he never brainwashed his party members into being sex slaves or, killed water. Still, I can't bring myself to hate Jade Empire, if only because there is a weird lack of games based on wuxia, which you'd think would be ripe for inspiration.
It is weird that there aren't more of these things.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
Make
more of them, people who make games.
Yeah. I mean, even if not for me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not a big wuxia guy.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's interesting. I thought it was a cool setting. I think it's the coolest part of the game.
Same.
But I do wish the game around it was better. But I'm not. I'd be lying if I said I was like super horny for for wuxia stuff. Like, I'm okay. I'm glad that this exists. I wish it was better.
Yes.
So. And yeah, the that kind of kill the puppy or pet the puppy, eat the puppy thing is definitely on full effect here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Us covering this has had the weird knock-on effect of turning the Watch Out for Fireballs channel into 24/7 Mass Effect chat.
Yeah.
And people, I know that's Mai, who is a Bonfire Side Chat alum and friend and good person on the Slack, was talking about how often, like, even in that series, which is later for BioWare, like, she would choose the Paragon path and it would still end up doing something like way eviler than she thought.
Yes.
As a thing. Like, it is something that BioWare got better at, but never got good at, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
Garrett says, via contact. As a console gamer growing up, my introduction to BioWare was Knights of the Old Republic on the original Xbox. If KOTOR was what got me in the door, Jade Empire was what solidified my love for BioWare. As a kid, I loved the morality systems in these games because my original idea of what an RPG is was stats and numbers. Again, a console gamer. Having a meter representing my way of the open palm or closed fist was very satisfying. Coming back to this game years later and having played games like Fallout New Vegas, morality meter feels quaint and too quantified for something that should feel more open. The fact that it ties into gameplay systems means it is better to be pure white or pure black character tendency to get more powerful fighting styles in your arsenal. The game tries to make the system less codified by having Sun Li tell you that a person might have a variety of valid reasons for acting bad or good, but the morals are so codified in the game's stat system. This felt like an attempt to hand-wave the meter and put more responsibility on the player, but again, the game encourages you to play one side for stats, not for your own feelings. The dated moral system aside, I love the game's Eastern art design and combat system. Though a bit stiff by today's standards, in terms of movement, the amount of different attack animations and styles that you can do is still impressive, while being slick and streamlined in a way that I like. My biggest regret is playing Jade Empire, is knowing that with the way BioWare has been going in the time since, the likelihood of a sequel or continuation is looking more and more hazy. I want more toad demons and martial arts in the vein of traditional Chinese paintings. It's such an underutilized motif, and it bears more exploration by studios who give proper respect.
Yeah, that is 2 votes for more wuxia. So
yeah, agreed. Like, it is an underserved market.
Mm-hmm.
That's the information here. Like, there are people who want this stuff.
Yeah.
You know, we talked a little bit about how the morality system is at odds with the stat system. And again, you know, I know that I am like such a ridiculous Obsidian partisan, but like they're the studio that solved this, and the way they did it, you know, which shows up in Alpha Protocol and Tyranny and stuff, is by rewarding you either way.
Yeah.
You know, as opposed to just being like, if you max out a meter, you get a cool thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like they love meters.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah, the way to solve it is to have more than one axis. Additionally, yeah.
Exactly. And, you know, have more granular rewards, like not have to max something out.
Yeah.
You know, in order to get the reward.
Mm-hmm.
So,
there's a little bit of errata that I want to address specifically because Knights of the Old Republic was brought up here. In the episode for Jade Empire, I believe that either I'll take this. I believe I misspoke and implied that KOTOR 2 was developed by BioWare. No, that was Obsidian. Some people took specific exception to that. I did not mean to imply that Obsidian, you know, that BioWare was responsible for that one.
Yeah, the publisher and developer stuff, and it gets confusing. Yeah. That's games.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it happens.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So that's everything. Thanks everybody for writing in.
Mm-hmm.
If you have things to say about our January games, you can hit us up by January 15th. Those games are The Cat Lady, Dusk, and Shadowrun Dragonfall. That's our premium episode for that month. We'll also be airing our live panel from the 2019 Portland Retro Gaming Expo.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it'll be a good time. And now is when we announce the games that we are doing for February. Yes, that is the month that follows.
I am excited. I'm looking at February or, you know, January through April, and it's all bangers.
Yes.
I am extremely excited. So first week we're doing something new, you know, again, just kind of on accident, ends up, you know, kind of tying into a bunch of the questions and stuff. We're doing a format challenge.
Maybe we talk about those things because they're on our mind.
It wasn't. I forgot that this was what we were doing until I opened up the spreadsheet.
Yeah.
So, but our patron Doug is sponsoring a month, and we're doing something that his terminology, Atari Safari. We are doing, you know, we're not doing split EPs as much anymore, but we will for this. We're choosing a handful of Atari games, and we're going to talk about Atari.
Yeah, that'll be an episode. You said a month.
Oh yeah,
no,
it's not Atari month.
Yeah,
you know, we're doing a battle tank part 3, the side quest.
Yeah.
You know, for such a huge part of video games, it's weird that we have not talked about Atari.
Yeah.
Really. And I had an Atari growing up. Like I have affection for Atari.
Same.
You know, I want to really dig into some of these games and find what are like good Atari games that are like straight up just like good and cool and innovative and fun to play.
Yeah.
Even in this year, 2019.
Yeah. I'm going to assume that when we say Atari, we mean the 2600. Yes,
I meant the Jaguar.
Okay,
so I'm doing exclusively.
So that was exclusively exclusively Alien versus Predator, exclusively games that are impossible to emulate. Gotcha.
Yeah. No. We mean the 2600.
Yes.
So we have not chosen our slate for that. We'll do that soon, but we'll make an announcement as to what we're playing. But we definitely want to hear your Atari memories because you know we're all old. We're all piles of beef on the side of the highway.
Yep.
Like, you know. So.
No casket, please.
No casket, please.
Yeah. After that, we are doing Death of the Outsider, a Dishonored story. I don't think that's the full title. But yeah, they put out that big media expansion pack, and if there's Dishonored content to do, we are going to do it.
Yeah, it'll be satisfying to complete the Dishonored kind of, you know, coverage, even though we never quite did the Brigmore Witches or anything. We just kind of talked about it. Yeah, Type 5, but we talked about that. And this is the final, at least for now, seems like it is the finale of the Dishonored universe. It is really interesting in its lore implications.
Yeah.
You know, it features the Outsider and his death. You know, it features fan favorite Billy Lurk. It does some really interesting, like I think it has really incredibly strong level design. It does an interesting thing where it pares down your powers in a way that I have really mixed feelings about that I'm looking forward to revisiting.
Yeah.
And you know, it's just, it's where you'll understand when we announce what's coming next, why we, chose something kind of lightweight.
Yeah.
Cause we have an incredibly spicy meatball, which is a rare opportunity where someone picked something for Patreon and it was a really long game and we decided to go with it.
Yeah.
You know, because, Nicholas Gardner, my hero and yours, has sponsored February's premium episode on XCOM,
the 2012, 2013, the recent one.
Yep, with the expansion, with Enemy Within.
Yeah, so both Enemy Unknown and Enemy Within.
So those missions and those upgrades and stuff. I have wanted to do an XCOM episode forever. I love XCOM.
Yeah. I've been looking for an excuse to play XCOM, but it pretty much always seemed like something we would do for this. So again, the perennial thing, very happy to have the excuse.
The rhythm of that, it's very similar to Darkest Dungeon. I don't know if it's just the place I'm at in my life, or if I've just discovered like a key to a new room in my heart that I didn't know existed.
Yeah.
But that rhythm of do a little bit of base management and then go do a tactics, then do a little bit of base management, like managing both those things at the same time is fucking, I don't even know how to describe like the way that is a perfect combination of gaming to me. The rhythm of that is so satisfying to me.
Yeah.
Like, fuck. It is. I love that game. So, I often forget about it. I played the original XCOMs and loved those, like when I was younger. But I always forget about it. It's one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, that is one of my favorite games of all time.
Yeah.
Why does that ever pop up when I'm like talking top 5s or top 10s? Like I just forget about it. But it's really up there.
Yeah.
Really excited about that. That is going to be a little bit weird. Lots of systems, and then the second part of the thing will be our individual stories, because that's part of the appeal of those games is emergent storytelling,
right?
The kind of drama that comes from a high difficulty tactics game, and then talking about the plot, which is actually cool and kind of does like a rah humanity thing better than a lot of other media does.
Yeah,
like it feels good to defend the Earth from these alien fuckers. So yeah.
So
not alien fuckers like Willie Tanner and his unfortunate relationship with Al, but alien fuckers like aliens who are who are shits. That's what I mean.
Yeah. So if you have things to say about those games, either for January or for February, please write in at Duckfeed.tv/contact. The deadline is the 15th of each month for that. As always, we'll remind you, brief and novel are preferred in terms of responses. And if you have thoughts about multiple games, do multiple responses. Don't weave them together. That makes it easier for us to kind of collate these and put the notes together for the dispatches.
We end up really appreciating that. Yeah. I know it's a little bit extra work for you, but it helps us out quite a bit. And then, if you want to get those premium episodes, become a patron, go to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. We really appreciate it. Everyone who does that, everyone who has done it. When you are hearing this on the early release, it is the day before Duckstream.
Yes.
So please tune in. Tune in, donate. It's going to be great.
Yeah. That is December the 20th, begins at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, and then goes for 48 hours all the way through to Sunday night. Yeah. Even if you cannot give monetarily, which we understand, something that makes that a successful event is when people watch and participate in chat. So keep us going with your fun ongoing conversation. That's a big part of it.
Jeeps and jest.
Yes.
And spread the word.
Yeah.
Retweet, things like that. Somebody asked me like, hey, could I tag people to retweet it?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm going to do that. Come on, Austin Walker, retweet this cool thing.
Do it.
Like, that's going to be me, so it can be you as well. The main goal, we just want to raise as much money as possible because it's a great cause. Yeah. And, so that is the idea.
Yeah. We are raising money for the Transactive Gender Project out of Portland, Oregon, out of the, what are the Lewis and Clark University out there. Yeah. This is our 5th year raising money for them.
Same organization. Yep. They just had a restructuring. So that is why. And I guarantee I will accidentally say Transactive Gender Center a dozen times, but it's actually the Transactive Gender Project. But so it's going to be really, really fun. Tune in. And all the other stuff, you've already done it. We just appreciate you. So thank you for listening, and thanks for supporting us.
Yeah. We'll see you next time.
Umbasa.